tonight. That's true. Normally I don't go on for another couple of hours, but here I am. You probably didn't expect to see me here, and that's okay. I thought I'd surprise you with a special guest. I have a special guest this evening, and I figured it'd be probably advantageous since that person is in a different time zone and isn't normally as much of a dirty stay up as the rest of us, but is definitely a dirty stay up. And so I would like to, I figure without further ado, because I mean, why draw it out, right? I would like to introduce, hey, Susan P., good to see you. I would like to introduce my guest, a fellow dirty stay up, Mr. Mitch Brisker.
Hey, so great to be here. I can't tell you, I'm like honored and thrilled to be given the badge of Dirty Stay Up. I could have done the later stream. I like to do that sometime with you because I'm sort of trying to feel out what different hours are like, what my own performance metric is at various different hours. Kind of depends on, what's going on that day. But it's great to be here. I love the idea of being on late. I love to explore the shadowy corners of the environment of which you occupy one. So I'm really thrilled about it. So thank you for inviting me on. And hi to all your guests. I probably know some of them. Susie P. Yeah.
Yeah, you know Hef.
Hef, she's not just a dirty stay up. She's an inappropriately dirty stay up.
Absolutely she is. And she knows how we roll. She was the first to get them out.
Yeah.
Every night it's a race to the top to see who's the first to put ASCII boobies in my chat.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Miss Stephanie East is here. Hello.
Gotta love those. Oh yeah, there they are. Gotta love those parasocial relationships.
Yeah. Duchess Diana, hello you too. I don't want to, but I have to go to bed. I shouldn't have clicked on it. Well, you know what? Replay crew is okay. Don't worry about it, Diana.
Come on, give us 15 minutes. You'll be good.
I know it's a school night, honey. Don't sweat it.
Every night's a school night for me. It seems like life is schooling me every day.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. I just got back this evening from being out of town at my best friend's place for a little more than a week.
Yeah.
And from the second I set down my backpack, I was on the phone. And messaging. But that also means that 3 more cabins got booked into the cruise.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I wish I could join you all, but who knows? Maybe I'll pick up a last minute ticket. I can't make plans that far ahead at this juncture.
Understand. Yeah. I understand. Yeah. And it's quite a ways away. So.
Yeah. And hey, we're competing with Laura and Serge, which is great. No. There's no problem. We can talk about them because we know they're not here. I'm just kidding. We can talk about how much we love them because we do love them.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I mean, there's a drinking game with Serge. When you watch
every time he says the word hotel, you get to drink?
No, it's not hotel, actually. There are 2 different ones. It's either literally or shred. Because he's always saying, without a shred of an F, without a shred of this, a shred of that. So I just...
Shred's a good word. That's a good word.
It is a good word, isn't it? Yeah. I feel like if we keep with those 2 words, we're all going to wind up with alcohol poisoning.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not much of a drinker. I'm sorry to tell you that. But
well,
I sort of got all that out of. I was never into alcohol, but I
tea poisoning, coffee poisoning. Help me out here, Mitch. We're talking about a drinking.
But do you need advice? Oh yeah, no. There's lots of things I'll drink, and I'll drink for a drinking game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna go all Mormon on you just for a drinking game. When there's a drinking game.
But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what word we can use. Instead of either shred or literally, so that we don't wind up dead by the end of one of his broadcasts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can. I don't know. You can just say. You can say tear asunder for shred.
No, just what word he uses to trigger It's if he
Oh,
says
oh,
those things,
oh,
then you have
oh,
to
that he
drink.
uses? I don't know. I don't
You
know.
know? Maybe it's
I don't
if the
know.
phrase "including but not limited to."
If I knew you were gonna ask me that, I would have done some homework and reviewed a Surge video, but
Okay. Alright, that's fair. But,
yeah.
no, they're great. I haven't really interacted a whole lot with Laura, but,
Well, Laura and I have a funny relationship. I knew her when she was about 8 years old, and then,
okay.
I knew her again, recently, because I used to see her at the ranch when she lived there. I was working at Golden, we would often go out there, and it was kind of a bit of a backlot. We built sets out there on Tues I shot an entire film out there and I'll tell you a story that I have associated with I used to go out there to the ranch and, when all the kids were Sterling he was probably when I first went up there, he was probably 14 or 15 or something, uh, and so we would go out there and I'd see these kids and they'd all come up to me like, "Have you ever seen like, like one of those photos of Doctors Without Borders and this couple of white people, and they got all these indigenous kids, these indigenous children, and they're smiling and they're hugging them and holding their hands, right? So I'd go out there and then I'd wander around because I wasn't particularly under any kind of restraint. And one day, all these kids ran up to me, about 12, a dozen kids, really cute kids, a little crust around their noses, and just they get a little dirty, but kids are dirty, right? Came running up and hugging me and holding my hand and da da da. Da. And I thought, these are the most, as we would say in Scientology, theta kids. Theta, like being a measure of life force, like, or these are the most high affinity kids, right? So whenever I would go up there, I would go out of my way and I'd walk over there and I'd look for the kids, and then they'd come up and they'd hug me and hold my hand. And then it dawned on me one day that they were just starved for attention from an adult. They were so starved for love that they thought maybe they could get something from me, a slight reflection of what they got from their parents. But I was mostly not there, and that's what they got from their parents. It's really sad when I realized that. And then when I connected with Laura, I was on somebody's stream, and I mean, I knew her parents forever. I knew them since the '80s. I worked on Dianetics in LA when marketing was in LA, and both their parents, Phil and Diane, worked in that office that I worked out of. And Rosemary, Mike Brown's mom, worked there as well, so I kind of knew all of them. And then, yeah, so I forgot what I was saying. So yeah, I knew that her parents. Yeah, and I never knew they had kids. Can you believe that?
I can't.
There was no picture of kids on their desk. There was no, "Hey, Mitch," or, "Hey, where's Phil and Diane?" Oh, they went to their child's birthday party. There was nothing. And so then I'm on some stream, and Laura, there's a chat, and all it says is, "Do you know my parents?" And it was like Laura, and I'm like, "I need more information. I need more." And then she told me, and I figured it out, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Phil and Diane," and she's that little girl. She was a different. I'm trying to remember the name. Her other actual, her other name. But it was like I was all I could do to hold my shit together. But and in some way, um, yeah. Anyway, I don't believe. Yes, whatever. So that's Surge. I never knew Surge, but I had some. I mean, I've done my whatever I can do to try to hold myself accountable and apologize for what I did because um, Surge was, for instance, to take Surge, for example, and we all know his story. And he was auditing those adults, and I know exactly what he was going through because it happened to me. I was, interrogated by a 14-year-old girl who had a earpiece in her ear and a guy named Marty Rappin screaming, obscenities, obscene questions, that would make a pornographer blush, like to ask me. And so I'm having to sit there and be assaulted by this 14-year-old girl, such a sweet child, who's being assaulted by this other guy who's just an evil, right? So
Yeah.
I understand what Serge is talking about when he says doing that to a, being put in that position.
Yeah.
Uh, but nonetheless, I made films that trained them, that indoctrinated them, that gave them the means to do those oddity sessions, right? So I thought I was doing the right thing. A lot of people thought they were doing the right thing, right? So sometimes I think some of us, like me, whatever, we sometimes risk being misidentified as a kind of a proxy for, that generation's pain or whatever. But it just makes me want to give them a hug. I'm so supportive of those young people and what they're doing, and I don't care if they even, you know, may blame me a little bit. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm just like,
I do,
I'm
but
not.
I wonder about if maybe because
Yeah,
you
Megan. I'm
mentioned.
sorry. Yeah, Megan. Thank you. From a poet. Yeah, I couldn't remember that. So yeah, Laura's name is Megan. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Um, I'm wondering if maybe because you've mentioned this before and um, that you were feeling that was that was the way that you were being looked at. And I asked you if anyone had said anything to you to that end, and you said, "No, it's just a vibe I get."
At it or what? Anybody? What specifically?
Anybody had said anything to you
Oh
about
no, 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 not
ruining their
directly.
childhood or
Uh,
blaming you for
no,
what you
no, no,
did
no,
while you
no,
were in the
no,
cult?
no, nothing specific. But there's unspoken communication and actions or omissions, not doing things, not answering things, expressing a certain mood around somebody. There's plenty, but I'm not trying to bring that up. Like I don't want to. There's fissures that are taking place. There's and OSA is feeding them because they know how to feed them. They really know how to feed these fissures. Boy, they just watch for them. If anybody in this community, and I don't want to get into to quote Eleanor Roosevelt, um, little people talk about people and big people talk about ideas. Okay. So I'd rather kind of stick to the ideas because there's so many fissures starting to happen. And then they're just, OSA is so good at, there's two levels of OSA. We love to laugh at OSA, like, OSA smells like poo and all that. And that's true. They do smell like poo. Um, and they do all these stupid things. They do these hate sites. I don't think they do them anymore because they just get turned into content. But they do all these stupid things. Like, how could you be so stupid? But at the upper levels, the stupid stuff is used to distract everybody. It's while at the upper levels, they are hiring the best intelligence people in the world, like fucking ex KGB motherfuckers,
Yeah.
to like work on this stuff. And that's what really scares me because they know how to run intelligence ops and they know how to run a psychological operation and take a little fissure and just feed it the kind of fuel that it needs to grow. So I just try to really stay away from all that stuff. And so I'm not, it doesn't make me feel guilty or doesn't make me feel shameful. I'm pretty good at not doing guilt and not doing shame and not blaming myself and all that. Not for that stuff because I thought I was doing the right thing. Uh, okay, never mind. So, yeah, okay, good. So anyway, that's the deal.
I'd just like to state for the record, since one person decided that they had to pipe up, this is not
Yeah,
an airport. You do not need to announce your departure.
yeah,
This is not a
exactly.
bus depot. And also, most of
Yeah,
the
and
people
and can I just say, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Oh, okay. All right. So this person, bye. So that's taken care of. And the other thing is figure out how to type, please, and learn your grammar.
Right.
If you don't
So
know
anyway,
which
there you
door
go.
you're
So
using, I can't be bothered. So yeah, but I hear you, and I appreciate what you had to say on that. Um, why was it that you mentioned that you wanted to come on and chat with me in the stay ups in the first place?
in the first place, because I know you were close with Doug, and got to know Doug. He lived very close to me. I never met him in person. Unfortunately, his life got cut short. And I think Doug represents a very significant kind of person who left Scientology in terms of being a resilient survivor and also being a renegade and not really caring if he fit in with the community and sort of striking out on his own. And social media is such a short uh, has such a short lifespan. Like it's like the news cycle is like whatever. It's like, Andy Warhol said, everybody in the future will have 15 minutes of fame. But on social media, it's like 15 seconds. It's like, somebody says a stupid thing in chat and then they get to be famous for 15 seconds. Um, and so I would like to see Doug. I would like to see him begin a continued discussion. In other words, of people continuing to acknowledge who he was and what he did. I wish we could actually restream some of his stuff, just in tribute, because I don't know how to do that, because I don't know anybody how they would have access to his material. But it's like he did some important stuff, and he was a good guy, and he was becoming a friend, and he was a neighbor, and we were intending to get together, and that it just didn't happen. We did one stream together, and that was that. But
I
that was
know.
the reason you asked. That was the reason, because I know you were modding for him, and I know you were friends, and I know a lot of your followers liked Doug.
Yeah, yeah. And he remains a source of inspiration. I mean, the level of strength that he had to pick up the pieces and put himself back together after going through what he went through,
Right.
especially right after his departure from the cult, was serious business, and it took an awful lot. But one of the other things that, I mean, and I hear you when you're talking about trying to, wishing that we could get some of his work back out there. I do know that a significant portion of his work that was on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble have been archived. Um,
I mean,
so
yeah, that's
I
good to
figure
know.
the thing that I was most concerned about was that now that he's not around to defend his own work, that the cult would go after him through YouTube and try to get everything taken down.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they'll put their attention on. They have a lot going on. So I don't know. I mean, I think maybe. I mean, I would not do it because of that reason. Like I have a copy of the chat he and I did. I don't know that I would be reluctant to play just that, because it might look like I was trying to. I get criticized for all kinds of stupid shit that I never did. Um, and so I would be reluctant to play it, because I wouldn't want to look like I was trying to take advantage of something, like I was trying to
Sure.
so anyway, but yeah, I would. That's actually a good idea. I forgot that I had that. I mean, I only have it because I think we co-streamed it on StreamYard, and I have a copy. I don't know. I might not, because it was on his channel. So what
Yeah.
happened was, I had listened to him. I was interested in him. I knew he was from LA. I knew he was an actor, and I listened to him, and I realized, oh, we knew a lot of the same people. I was friends with his acting teacher, and da, 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 da. For some reason, he never made it up to gold. Actually, for a good reason, which is a good reason. It's a positive good reason, is he didn't he didn't he didn't qualify, which is like
Right.
that. It doesn't mean you're not talented. You'd be the best actor in the world, but then they, like, maybe you had maybe you're connected to your gay cousin on Facebook, and they don't like gay people, so they don't want you coming up, because
Right.
it's just weird prejudice and shit. So unfortunately, I never met him up there. So
He said that he was in one Scientology movie or video of
yeah, they shot
something,
it in LA. I mean, yeah, I know what he's talking about. That, but they didn't shoot it at the base. They shot that in LA.
and he said that
Yeah.
we'd never be able to find it. Even he couldn't find it. He went
Well,
looking for it. He couldn't find it.
there's a lot of stuff that gets shot that they don't use, so it's
Yeah.
not surprising, because we would shoot they shoot so much stuff. So
But I think that, it the really heartbreaking thing for me is that he was almost done completing season 3 of Raised in a Secret Society. It was
yeah,
almost done,
I know.
and
Yeah,
I know that there was other stuff that he was working on, and
yeah.
unfortunately, nobody's gonna have access to his computers, and even if
No,
they did, they wouldn't know any of his passwords because he password protected the shit out of everything.
probably. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so yeah, I know it's kind of tragic. I mean, part of it is because we're all pretty independent. I mean, it's not like any of us has a staff. You know, we're all one of the great things about the democratization of media in YouTube is that Mr. B started with a phone in his bedroom, so and you can build an empire from that. But unfortunately, that means that at some level you're going to be solo on your own, and like doing everything. Like me, I was just fumbling all over the place because I'm like, I like, where's the 30 people that I can tell what to do? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I knew how to do it all. It was pretty easy to figure out, but I was just like, it's
Yeah.
really frustrating. And then I kind of had to get over myself. I mean, I will admit that I did a lot of self-reflection because when I first came on, well, you didn't ask me about that, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm like, I don't want to go off on my own topics. I want to know what you guys want to know. And now
Somebody was
here's something. Can I
political.
just can I read this comment from a poet? He said about 90% of the streams I watch on SBTV, Doug is always mentioned in the chat or by whoever is doing the stream. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm glad because I mean I wanted to mention it not because it's never mentioned, but I think he was such a unique individual, and I think Cricket, you referred to him as being inspirational, and you got to keep those people's image alive because they'll just go by really quickly and people will forget. So
Yeah, no, he is definitely not being forgotten. It's
yeah.
part of the reason that I I named the cruise what I did. The cruise group is called Xenu Marlene.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. You
for
you look
for
nothing
Doug,
like Zeno, by the way.
I'm sorry?
You look nothing like Zeno.
Oh, good,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
good.
nobody really knows what Zeno looks like. It's all been guesses.
It's all guesses. Right now, the
Yeah.
best thing that we have is the South Park episode. Um, but yeah, I named it Xenu Marlene because on Doug's stream, um, it was the signal for everybody to partake if the word Xenu was said. Um, so kind of the drinking game, or he would take
Yeah,
the lid
yeah,
off of his
yeah,
pipe, and then he
yeah.
did a stream with Marilyn, and the leader of Marilyn's cult, her name is Marlene Sweeney.
Right.
So then it became whenever you heard Xenu or Marlene, take a drink or a hit or a potato chip or a cookie or whatever your vice is, enjoy some tea. And so I named the cruise Xenu Marlene
Nice.
because I was gonna call it, and in the first mock-up flyer that Marilyn produced for me for it, I had been in my head referring to it as SPs at Sea. But apparently, since I'm not a Scientologist and never have been, I don't get to call myself an SP.
Oh, who's the
Somebody,
gatekeeper? Who's the
I,
gatekeeper for who gets to call who an SP?
people on Facebook apparently got their
Oh.
panties in a twist over it, and I'm like, well,
How dare
SP,
you? How dare you, Cricket? How dare you
I know,
call you SP?
I know,
That's
I
kind
know.
of in this. Well, I got news for you. In this community, that's just a self-identifiable thing. It's just like you identify yourself. Somebody else doesn't identify you. The thing is,
I
you're working towards the same goal. You're an SP. I mean, I don't necessarily care one way or another about that. I don't. I'm very supportive. I think I support SBTV definitely. It's amazing, but I kind of don't identify with it. I don't think Doug did either, really.
I don't consider myself SPTV. I consider myself SPTV adjacent, but
Yeah, ish.
um,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
get it.
only because I watch a lot of SPTV, and I was modding backstage for Doug, and he sometimes would use the SPTV banner, and sometimes he wouldn't. It just depended on his mood that day. So
Yeah. So, but also, yeah. I mean, the thing is, look at the people that you associate with on YouTube. Like you are undeniably an SP in the eyes of the Church of Scientology.
Well, yeah, I speak out
Yeah.
against
So
Scientology.
yeah. So I wouldn't worry about it. So I mean, not that you're worried, but I just it's like whatever. I mean, that's one of these things. Like I spoke about this the other day, or I wrote somebody. I'm trying to think, but this segmentation that it's like no. I'm going to differentiate your level that you were in the club versus my level and what your role was. No, my role is more significant. You're not even qualified by virtue of your role, but I'm the, and who are you? Like I was called a just a highly paid pro who was, just a pro who was paid. So therefore, what could I possibly know? And all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's somebody else's crud. But people do listen to that. But whatever. But if anybody has questions about any of that, they're free to ask me. Especially if they write me, I'll definitely respond to that.
Well, it's I mean, people, yeah, they want to put labels on things, and they want to put people in silos.
Well, yes, absolutely. But that's in general. I mean, you could. There's an yeah. Nobody in this culture likes a person that does more than one thing. You can be a musician, but you can't be a musician and a writer. You can be a musician, a writer, but you can't be a musician, a writer, and a brain surgeon. It's kind of like whatever the Renaissance person was. We don't accept that kind of thing. But yeah, they do want to. They do want to. It's just reductionist thinking. I'm done with that. Scientology is reductionist thinking. The thing that is more prevalent than anything else in Scientology is judgment. It is the most judgmental religion thought, soul stealing thought, stopping group you could possibly mention, and they do it with judgment. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the tone scale. Where you are on the tone scale, I'm going to judge you based on your tone level, your emotional tone level. I'm going to judge you based on where you are on the bridge. I'm going to judge you on how hard you're working to get up the bridge. I'm going to judge you on how many people you get up the bridge, and the people around you that aren't trying to get up the bridge, I'm going to judge you on how you judge them. So it becomes multi-layered, and it's really crazy. And so then I come on YouTube and I'm like, there's all this judgment. And I'm going, oh, well, I guess I'll just, I'm just turn my back on the whole thing. It's like, I don't want to have anything to do with Scientology for or against or whatever. I mean, that was really a consideration. I never intended to be a professional anti-Scientologist. But, just in terms of my own needing to heal and in terms of wanting to rate the chaos that I controlled around me, I decided to be proactive and do something about it and write a book and speak out and tell my story. One of the reasons people need to tell their story is because if you lose that, you've lost everything. And when you're in Scientology, you will actually be indoctrinated to pay them money so that they can provide you with a false identity, provide you with a false narrative about what your story is, right? And that's why you see people, the further that they go up the bridge, the harder it is to leave, right? Somebody never went clear. They're like, whatever, I got, whatever. You see this with Sea Org members, public Scientologists, a lot of Sea Org members, but people generally have a better time, an easier time leaving. There's the higher up, most of the suicides, and correct me if I'm wrong that I know about that, but people unaliving themselves are from further up the bridge, especially at the level of OT8, because you have been fed a fictitious identity. I had an observation the other day, and I'll share it with you. And maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is a bunch of crap. Maybe I'm just being too significant about everything. But I became aware recently through a show I was watching, not something I didn't know about, but I was reminded in a very direct and emotional way about the importance that the indigenous people in Australia, the Aboriginal people, the importance they place on story. Like that's what the walkabout is, right? We've all heard this. These indigenous people in Australia, they go on a walkabout. It's very important to them. And the reason they do that is that's where they learn their story. They cannot have, and if you interrupt them doing that, you've stolen that culture's identity. And that's a horrible thing. Australia's been going through a lot of kind of like, making amends to the indigenous people for having disrupted them finding their story. I mean, I think they're 80,000 years. I think they're the oldest people on earth and they have a lot of wisdom. And I realized this while I was writing a book that I bought into this lie that I'm an eternal spiritual being. I'm an OT. I have body thetans and I blah, blah, blah. And I have a reactive mind, in reverse order. And so many things aren't really my fault. And I'm a ticking time bomb. And if I don't handle the reactive mind, and all of this is a lie. It's a lie. You accept that as your identity, which is why people stay in, because they all have the same reality. They all agree that that's what life is. It's what makes it so hard to leave. You leave and you find out your story is gone. The one thing that nobody can ever take from you, they figured out how to take it. And they figured out how to get you to pay them for the privilege of stealing your identity and replacing it with a false narrative, which is kind of the thing that's, I'm more interested in telling that story than, let's say, making fun of the church. Although, boy, there's so much cringeworthy stuff that I could go on for days about it. But anyway, that's kind of my take on, in a nutshell. That's sort of my take on the whole thing, and on why I'm here. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just starring questions while I'm paying attention to you
Okay,
and
good.
listening to people and seeing what they have to say and ooh, here's a good one.
Okay. Question for Mitch. Your book is next on my list. Do you sell them in your merch store? I do, but it's $50 plus shipping, and then you get it autographed. Or you could just go to Amazon and order it, or Barnes and Noble. Uh, or if you're living on welfare and like you don't even, and you're financially strapped, I'll send you a free ebook. I mean, I've done this. I am like myself financially insecure, but people have written to me, and there's this rumor going around that I'm some like wealthy elitist. I'm not. I'm facing homelessness, but I'm trying to turn that around. But anyway, I have been contacted by people who are like, I really want to read your book, but I don't even know where I'm going to get heating oil. And I'm like, I just sent them an ebook. Like, there, it just, when you have some money, if you like it, if you want to buy it, go buy it. But for now, read it, because they want to read it. And I feel horrible in that case that all of a sudden something that I'm trying to contribute is like behind a paywall of a book. It kind of like bugs me. If you can afford to buy it, I really appreciate it. And if you feel motivated to give me a fair review on Amazon, it does help. You gave me one, which was
I did.
beautiful. You wrote a beautiful review. I was like, at least in tears swelled up in one eye, at least, maybe both. I don't know. You know, I did something
Wow.
no man, I did something no man hardly ever will do, like cry reading an Amazon review. So anyway, it was really nice and really appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was happy to write it. I read the book. I plowed through that book. And I read pretty quickly anyway, but when
Hmm.
I'm into something, then I'm gonna go through it even faster because I'm just voracious when it comes to putting information into my noggin. And the reason that I think that it's important to tell your story is that everybody's story is different. And it's not a contest. It's not a trauma contest to see who had it worse. It's not it's not anything like that, but
Right.
the different perspectives are really important. Yeah, you weren't in Sea Org. You were public and you were paid. You're one of the few people on that base who was paid anywhere near what a decent rate was for what you were doing. Okay.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, not for what I was doing. I was way underpaid for what I was doing. I mean,
Okay.
somebody complained because in 30 years they paid me X amount of money, but I made the Church of Scientology hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. So,
Yep.
and I was not in the end taken care of any of the. So,
Of course you
yeah,
weren't.
no,
But
but
again,
you're, yeah.
you
Sorry,
had
go ahead.
people are saying, um, I'm reading some of the shit that people are slinging at you and kind of trying to deconstruct that and unpack it because, you know, Sterling was born in the Sea Org
Hmm.
and he took care of trees and peacocks and uh, I don't know
Right.
that he had it anywhere near as terribly as Mike Rinder did. And even though Mike Rinder did and knows about a whole lot of unspeakable things, Rinder was still in the hole for a long time. So
Yeah,
he had
and
to go through a lot of shit.
when he
And
came
it's
out,
just,
yeah, exactly. I don't want I
there's so
again,
much. It doesn't
yeah,
need to be compared, but it
yeah,
needs to be seen as another piece in the mosaic of what the big picture is. That's the way I see it. Every new book that comes out, every new person that's speaking out on YouTube, those become another piece in the mosaic.
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. There's, you know, it's so corny, but like, is this not a big tent? Can not everybody who wants to get in? There shouldn't be any segmentation. There shouldn't be anybody standing at the door. There shouldn't be anybody saying, "I'll help you until I won't help you," or whatever it is. I mean, I don't like the crosstalk about. I don't like us. Like, why are we talking about one another? You know, I was talking with a journalist who's a producer, showrunner, who was interested in doing something post aftermath show about the Scientology scene, and was reaching out to a number of people, myself included, and we were exchanging some texts. And then was a particularly ugly exchange from one creator about another. And she texted to me and said, "You want this makes me lose all interest. This is like like this producer who was like considering doing something significant looked at this and went, "Oh, it's a bunch of ex-cult members slinging mud at each other." And she just, started to lose interest. But, hopefully
Yeah.
that won't happen. So it doesn't have a good effect when that happens. Like if somebody says something on publicly online, then you object to it. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to speak publicly against it, right? Just because they said it publicly. Yeah, it's like I think people don't use the discretion that's needed, because ultimately, at the end of the day, this movement, if it's a movement, and to some degree it is, um, it's about solidarity and not ego. And when it starts becoming about ego and calling people out, and whether they're right or wrong, and they did it or didn't do it, but it's about calling them out. It's not about what they did. It's about calling them out. When it becomes about like that and it becomes so public, it's kind of a problem. But anyway, I didn't really want to talk about that because that's just sort of feeds into that whole narrative. Some
It
people,
does.
all
And there's a lot of
their
back and
content.
forth about it.
I mean, come on. There was a couple of people, and all the content they do is talking about what happened in SPTV, and I'm like, what's the point? But anyway, so I'm glad you liked my book. I'm glad you found it engaging. I've gotten some really good feedback on it. So I originally came on YouTube to promote it because social media is a good. I'm like, when I was doing my due diligence. Look, I self-published. I found it too difficult to get a publisher because they don't like publishing memoirs that aren't from famous people. They just publishing a book is a really big gamble for a publisher. Even if it's R.K. Rowling, because I'm J.K. Rowling. I always get her name wrong, because maybe people don't like her anymore, and they're going to spend like $1 million printing books and doing advertising. So at any level, it's a big challenge. And so they want to do Scientology books from famous people or people that worked for L. Ron Hubbard. Well, they're gone. Like there's none left, right? There's
Right.
nobody left who's famous and worked for L. Ron Hubbard or worked for L. Ron Hubbard that's going to come out. There's a few guys up at the end. They're just going to die up there. That's never going to happen. And then I discovered, if anybody's interested to know this, I discovered that publishing a book today is like it's the same thing for an author as being a recording artist. You do not need a record label. You need to know what you need. I had to do a lot of research and a lot of due diligence. You and I talked about this, and I really tried my best to hold myself to the rigorous standard of a publishing company. And I had to learn all the ins and outs of how you publish on Amazon and how you publish elsewhere, like on Ingram specifically, because somebody in the chat said, "Hey, let's all call the libraries and get the book in there." Well, libraries don't buy books from Amazon. So if you're only published on Amazon, you're never going to be in a bookstore. You're never going to be in a library. You have to publish through one of the manufacturer distributors that, some libraries look it up on the computer. It's there, right? So I'm trying to get in-store book signings, right? I don't have a publicist. I'm doing it totally myself. It's all homegrown. I've gotten a lot of pretty good media coverage for a nobody without a publicist. I did all that German TV and National Enquirer and Daily Mail and all this stuff, which is my little homegrown press junket for my book. So I've been talking to the only book chain left in America is Barnes and Noble, and they do in-store book signings on a per store basis. So I talked to a couple of their event directors today in my area, and they're both, the first thing they want to do is go, okay, what's the title? I'll look it up. But it has to be available in their system. So, I had to learn how to figure that out and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do that. That'll be fun. Like in-store book signing, that's for your friends. Nobody comes but your friends, and then you take some pictures, you put them on social media. But that's like, you know what I'm saying? It just gives you some stuff to work with. So anyway, uh,
Well, I live up here in the frozen ice planet of Hoth.
right,
Um,
right, right. And you have
but
those big white woolly mammoths, the big furry ones.
I haven't seen any around lately, but I thought that I heard one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I hope they're not going extinct because that would be a total tragedy.
No, they've got a lot of places where it's their natural habitat.
Oh, good, good,
So
okay.
yeah, no, I think they might be protected.
Yeah.
I
Thanks,
think they
George
might be
Lucas.
protected. There are very certain very, very rare certain
Yeah,
times and considerations that have to be met,
yeah,
conditions under which you can injure or kill one. So
right. Well, and I think George Lucas set up a refuge somewhere. I think he paid for it out of the profits of the film.
right.
Yeah, so yeah, that was good, great. But what you were saying, you're on the frozen ice, so up there,
I'm
you were going to
I'm
make a
up here in
point.
Hoth, and I know that the nearest org to me is St. Paul, but there is a Barnes and Noble in my city. So
Well,
if you
yeah, I could,
happen to make
yeah,
it to Hoth,
yeah, I would call them ahead of time. I'm going to see how it goes. There's this beautiful Barnes and Noble near my house, and it's in an old theater, like a beautiful old deco theater, and it's called Bookstore. When it became a bookstore, we were all worried they were going to tear it down, but they restored it. They just ripped out the inside. And that's a Barnes and Noble, and they said no, that's like the only one in LA where we don't do it. It's too small. So I'll see how it goes, because if it goes well, then there's a reason to maybe travel a little bit. It can get a little like it can get a little dicey for self-publishers, because sometimes the bookstores want you to show up with books, and that can be very expensive, because if they don't sell, then you'll get charged for manufacturing shipping. So the really smart way to do it is the bookstore orders the books and you show up to do an event. That helps to sell the books, right? And so that's how it worked. But they seemed very enthusiastic when I called them. They were, like, because they Barnes and Noble, they do a lot of in-store stuff. I mean, I really have to hand it to them for surviving Amazon. It almost makes me want to really support them.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kim is up in Minnesota, and she's
Oh yeah,
not far from me,
yeah,
and she said, "Yeah, we definitely keep our eyes open for those creatures." And they
yeah,
do make
yeah,
noise.
yeah. Well, I saw the film. I saw what episode of Star Wars was that where they were featured in?
Episode 5.
5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That
The
was,
second
yeah.
only real movie, honestly. I
Yeah.
I
There
don't even
wasn't.
count the first 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I hear you, man. I'm with you on that.
Okay, good. I was getting worried for a second there that I was gonna have to fight you about that, and
No, 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 no. I think that was what was it? That was that The Empire Strikes Back, right? Wasn't that?
yes.
Yeah, number 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, that is a kind of universally agreed as really the best one. Um, anyway, did I tell you I turned down when I was just graduate at college? I turned down. I guess no, it was a couple years after I graduated college. I turned down a job working on Star Wars. If people think I'm like an elitist snob, I was too good for Star Wars. But no, no, in the animation department, because I worked for a company when Star Wars was made, um, called Robert Abel and Associates, and maybe 20 people were recruited from that company to work on the film. And so there's a guy named Richard Edlund who I assisted. I was like an assistant for him, and Richard worked on Star Wars. He won an Oscar for Star Wars. And then he went on to win a shelf full of Oscars. He did all the Ghostbusters films. He did like a ton. If you look him up, Richard Edlund, you'll see he's a multi Oscar winning guy. Anyway, Richard was a great guy. He was a cameraman where I worked, an effects cameraman, and I used to assist him doing artwork and paste up and all kinds of stuff. So that when he went to work on Star Wars, he called me up and he said, "I want you to come and be the head of rotoscope animation," which is like R2D2, they do the electrical animation. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I just got in the Directors Guild and I'm directing TV commercials. And, I'm driving a BMW, so I don't want to go and have some shitty job working on a Buck Rogers film, which is what we all thought it was. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, it was a kids movie. Nobody saw it coming. And I had a classmate, Robbie Blaylock, who unfortunately passed away, I think, last year. He won an Oscar for special effects. The special effects department, there were 4 guys who won Oscars. One was a schoolmate of mine. He and I were both going to go to work on it. Anyway, it's a whole long story, but I've always had a very special feeling about that film because so many of my friends and people I went to school with. I will tell you that all of the models, like the Death Star and all that stuff, if there's any Star Wars freaks are interested in trivia, that was all. ILM, which we think of as being in near Marin County. What is it? Lucas Town or whatever they call it. I forgot.
Right.
That was in L.A. I mean, they didn't have any money. It was nothing. They rented, they called it ILM. There was not just ILM. There was a couple of other companies working on it as well. ILM was in North Hollywood in a building across the street from Universal Studios. And then they had a bunch of little warehouses in Hollywood. There's this part of Hollywood around Melrose and Highland, which is where there's a lot of production goes on, like hardcore real production, not the crap that the studios do, but model making and small stuff, but product photography, blah, blah. They were doing all that in there, and I worked like within walking distance. You grab lunch, you'd go down, you say hi to your friends, you watch them shooting the Death Star or whatever it was. Then all the live action stuff was all shot in England, and then it was all the VFX, the special effects, VFX, visual, that was all done in LA, right? And so by the time it came out, kind of everybody knew, oh yeah, this is going to be cool. So by the day it came out, it was just electric. I mean, when we sat in the audience and when that shot of the Imperial Cruiser went by, that opening, first is your Millennium Falcon and it goes by, and then this lumbering shot comes in and it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And because we had friends, everybody in the audience either worked on it. It was like at Grauman's, had either worked on it or went to school with or was friends with somebody who worked on it. And the applause was just went on, like the walls were shaking in the theater. And, it was a pretty amazing thing. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was.
I've watched a lot of the BTS stuff and the documentary stuff.
What is BTS? What is that? Tell me.
Behind the scenes.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I'm not up on the lingo. So
Pardon.
yeah. BTS. Okay, good.
But you'd know what I meant if I told you that when I was a production assistant on a movie shoot, an independent movie shoot in New York, you'll know what I mean when I told you that we stole the Brooklyn Bridge.
You mean you shot on it without a permit? Is that what you mean?
Yep.
We don't call it that. We say we guerrilla. We just call that guerrilla style.
Guerrilla. Yeah. Well, the whole thing was guerrilla style because we got
you're going in without a permit Sunday morning at 4 a.m. or Saturday night at 4 a.m. and
Brooklyn Bridge and not Tompkins Square Park. Son of a bitch. Now I don't remember the name of the park.
And well, if you're young enough, and the crew's small enough, you just tell them you're from a film school. I mean, I could pull that off for a while.
We told them when we were shooting by NYU. That's what.
We're film students.
Because there was another film company that was shooting B-roll that was shooting in the park at a different location. So whenever anybody got anywhere near us, we're like, yeah, we're just shooting B-roll for them.
Yeah, But then I pulled up my big pants and got a big boy job, and then I wish you couldn't do that anymore. You didn't need to do it anymore. But anyway, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'd kind of forgotten about that whole thing. I mean, I wrote in the first.
BTS is also a K-pop group.
That's right. That's where I'd heard it. Yeah, Boys Together. What something?
Bangtan. I can't remember the last word of it, but I'm a I'm a K-pop fan, but I don't stand BTS. I went to the
Oh,
BTS
okay.
museum when I was in Korea, but they're not my group. But yes, there is a group called BTS.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's
Yeah, and
always
then
been behind the
I
scenes.
yeah, and then there's BTK, right? And then there
Right, and that's something totally different.
yeah, and then sometimes they're very similar. Anyway, yeah, that was great. The first 3 chapters of my book are about starts when I'm about 15 and it goes through till I got into Scientology. And I kind of skipped over that, the working on commercials, because it wasn't the point of the book. So, but it's kind of fun to talk about because a lot of interesting things happen.
So
You know what?
when are you doing the movie
Of what? They
of
don't
your
let guys my age make movies unless they've been doing it all along. Like David Lean, who I think we all know who he is. He directed Lawrence of Arabia, and was a very, very gifted director. He died on the set making his last film. He was 90 years old. So, but we all can't be David Lean. I kind of took a long hiatus, and I did think if it would pay off. I really did think it would be worth it.
Yes, it
Washington
was
Square
Washington
Park.
Square
Yeah,
Park.
that's not
That
an
was
easy
the
one
part.
to. Yeah, Washington Square Park is where that mini the next to NYU.
A little Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was Washington Square. No, it's Washington Park. It doesn't matter.
Washington Square Park.
Washington Square. Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyway, yeah, that was it. I mean, that was I grew up in Hollywood, and the people thought, oh, well, you went into film because you grew up. And I didn't. My father was an architect. My mother was a college professor. I didn't know anybody in the film business, and I sort of stumbled my way into it while studying fine art in school. In the late '60s, early '70s, film was becoming this emerging art form in LA. I was just behind the first generation of film school graduates who went on to Hollywood. Like the first one was, people don't actually know this, but John Milius, who co-wrote Apocalypse Now, and he directed one of my favorite coming of age '60s films is called Big Wednesday, which is a wonderful film. It's about surfing, but it's about some young men, 4 young men coming of age during the Vietnam War in Southern California. And Lee Purcell, who's a Scientologist, as the female lead in the film, and she is like the emotional center. A very good actress. That's a different conversation. That I have observed over the years that there are a number of very gifted actors that whose careers were died on the wreckage of their careers died on the rocks of Scientology because they had so much attention on Scientology and on their own spiritual advancement, and became so brainwashed that the way they were going to fulfill their career goals was to go up the bridge and be a bigger being, and then their careers never happened. And one of those is Lee Purcell, because if you watch Big Wednesday, you'll be like, well, what happened to her? But anyway, John Milius, he did Big Wednesday, he did a Red Dawn, right? John Milius was the first director in Hollywood to graduate from film school and then become a Hollywood director. And then after that, you had Francis Coppola, and you had George Lucas. I think he went to USC, and then you had Steven Spielberg. But Spielberg didn't go to film school. He went to Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, where my mom taught. But nonetheless, I think he probably took some film courses. But whatever, he's like probably the greatest filmmaker of all time. I mean, the guy invented the blockbuster. You got to give him some credit for that. We
Again,
forget that, but Spielberg did invent the summer blockbuster. Jaws was the first summer blockbuster.
it still doesn't answer my question.
Yeah, I know, because I tried to turn this into movie night. So what's your question?
When's your movie coming out?
Oh, I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't know. I mean, I thought I want to get an audiobook done, and then okay, so I started writing a screenplay. I hate saying this because it's like everybody in LA, I should just go to Starbucks with my fucking computer and open it up and go, I'm writing a script. I don't even have to say that, just because I look like,
No,
whatever.
no, don't go to Starbucks. Go to that coffee shop on Vermont
Intelligentsia?
across from House of Pies.
Intelligentsia?
No, the one right across from House of Pies on Vermont.
Oh, on Vermont. Yeah, that's really, yeah, the one on Vermont, the one next to the theater. The one,
Mhm.
yeah. What is the name of the coffee shop? It's a hipster bougie kind of.
Super. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there for quite some time during my first summer
And let
in
me guess, you did not feel worthy. because they wouldn't nobody in there. I mean, it's just kind of the vibe. You walk in a place like that and they're like, "You are not worthy." Doesn't matter who you are.
For the most part, they were pretty cool when they realized that A, I wasn't a douchebag, and B, I was gonna tip them.
Okay, well, then I mispredicted your story. So, yeah, so I'll go to that one's too far from my house. I'm trying to think if I have a one of these artisanal, non, chain, coffee shops, like, that's sort of, like, curated from local, locally gathered, handmade,
Yeah, free
handcrafted.
range.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah,
um
free range vegan coffee
yeah,
that
exactly, yeah, gluten-free, free-range vegan coffee
fat
prepared
free,
by yeah.
grown in the Hollywood Hills and
Yeah, well,
handcrafted.
yeah, now you're talking that's, uh wait a minute, somebody has a question. It says here, okay, Annie Lee, SP, Annie Lee, SP.
Amy.
Question for Mitch.
That's
Amy,
Amy
sorry
Lee.
about that. My eyesight is not what it used to be. Question for Mitch. Can you put up there? It's at
Yep.
2207.
Yeah, I got it.
And it says, question for Mitch, did they really redo Pro TRs film? I heard a rumor they had to because Dan Kuhn left. Yeah, it wasn't just Dan Kuhn. The answer is yes, I remade it. And I can tell you all kinds of funny stories about remaking it. But first, I'm going to let my dog in the room because he's outside crying and
Okay.
I'm feeling horrible. So just, this is not going to be pretty, me getting out of the chair. So be warned. Hey, Weston.
Yay, we're gonna get Weston.
Oh, God. He's been living in his crate. I don't know that he's going to let me stay on because somehow I think my son came home and let him out of his crate. Hey,
Oh,
bud, nice to see you. Oh, so anyway, the Pro TRs film. Yeah. So here's the deal with the Pro TRs film. This is really inside baseball. This is just, I don't know how many people here were in Scientology and watched that film and did the training. But that was a very significant film. The Pro TRs film was probably the most significant of all the technical training films, of all 26 of the technical training films. And the reason for that, it was a horrible film. It was so ugly. It is legendarily bad quality. It looked like, I went to one of the best film schools in the world. And so you'd have people who were incredibly talented, who were on a scholarship, who really deserved to be there, all the way down to mildly talented, maybe no talented people whose parents were very rich. And the school needed to have some, it's a private school, they needed to have some paying students. They couldn't put anybody on scholarship. Well, if you took the least interesting, dullest of those students on day one, they could make a better film than L. Ron Hubbard ever made. It is just a fact. With a cell phone, like these films were, I can't even fathom. Like if Saturday Night went to do a parody of one of these films, and they're the ones who could probably pull it off, they would have to do so much work that it wouldn't even be worth it to be that bad. That's how bad that film was. But because it was directed by L. Ron Hubbard, and because he was instructing people like Dan Kuhn, who was the lead in the film, you can't do that now, Winston. Because he was the lead in the film, he was personally instructing him on how to perform these auditing processes. Um, oh boy, I don't know what you want, bud. He does this occasionally. Usually he's really good. I can't handle you right now. Here, you want to come up here? Here, come up here. So so the film was considered to be sacred. Like literally, it was sacred, right? And so I completed all of those films, 25 of them. And people would ask me about Pro TRs, and I would say, we're never going to redo it. Right. And then one day David Miscavige came to me. This is the best part of the story. Weston, just calm down there.
come on,
And
Weston.
he said, he's really loud. He's a beagle. And he said, you just go play, go do something. And he said, I got a note for you. You can't do this. I'm going to put here. Come on, hold on 1 second. You're going to have to stay out here and park.
Oh, doggos.
Yeah, or else he's going to go back in his crate. Let me
Weston
just
should have treats.
give me a second. Give me a second.
While he's handling whatever it is that Weston needs, here's your reminder to take your night meds. Take your night meds, everybody.
See, I think he's just not used to me doing this at night. Okay, so then Miscavige pulls me in and he says, he came right back in the room. I let him outside.
Of course.
And Miscavige said, by the way, L. Ron Hubbard hated this film. And he never liked it. He hated all the students in it. He thought they did a horrible job. So he basically said, we're going to redo it. Everybody's in the film as an SP. And I was like, oh my God, this film that everybody loves. Like, what a burden that I have to try to remake this thing. I mean, plus the thing is horrible. You know, all the staff in the film, they wore like these blue tunics that look like something a cross between like a Star Trek uniform and a Nehru jacket. And they were like robin's egg blue. It was just insane. And the students wore like blousey, the men wore blousey satin shirts, like balloony, like pirate costumes with sashes around their waist. And the idea was that you weren't supposed to be able to identify the year that it took place. And it was just insane, this idea that it was supposed to be timeless. So it was an incredible burden. And I was able to do it. And I actually shot it twice. I didn't know we were going to talk about this because I have some pictures from the set from the first time we shot it. Because I thought, oh, I'm just going to update this film. It was shot in a date packing plant, and they had pillars in the room blocking, because that's what they had. So they wrapped aluminum foil around the pillars, thinking that they could decorate them. And then they did these what we would call a scenic, like a background outside the window. And they didn't know how to do greens, like they didn't know how to do foliage and stuff. So they just painted it, and it looked like a child. Like, you know, like if you took a butcher paper and you had like kindergartners do a mural, like that's what it looked like. Literally, I'm not even saying that to exaggerate. It was really horrific.
I believe you.
Yeah, and so I had to redo this thing. So I redid it. I re-envisioned it being in like in Boston in a gentrified old sewing warehouse that had beautiful industrial age arched windows and steel mullions and high ceilings, and you know, but all gentrified and beautiful. And we built this whole massive set. And I had the staff were all in, literally they were in Armani suits and dresses and Louboutin naked colored shoes for the girls, and it was very elegant. I mean, and then I shot about a third of the film, and Miscavige said, nah, it's not going to work. I was like, oh, fuck. And he said, because the students are going to see it, and it's going to be such it's going to be so different, such a departure from the other film that they're going to reject it. He said, look, they all know it was shit. I mean, I can't believe this. This was the biggest unspoken thing in Scientology training. Like nobody talked about it. They were just, you watch the film, get the data from the film, hold your nose. Nobody talks about how bad it is. If you do, you go to ethics. Well, I talk about I never talked about how bad it was. I talked to execs from Gold and said, if you want, I'll come up and help you make a film. But you know, I never said it was horrible. So now I'm having to remake this thing. So, you know, for years I'd been saying, yeah, people would ask me and I'd say, yeah, I did all the tech films except yeah, okay, good. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. So he said, what did he say? He said, what we have to do, he had this little funny phrase. It was, we have to get rid of the schlock, but keep the, what would you call it? The, you know, not just what was good, but it was like the stuff that made the film unique. And so I was tearing my hair out. So I'm like, because there's nothing about it that's not schlock. So how do we get rid of the schlock? You get rid of everything, right? So I sat down and I did a very deep analysis. And I said, okay, well, the set was white walls and aluminum foil. So I'm going to adopt white and silver as the palette on the set, right? But I'm going to design it like a beautiful modern architectural space. But I'll use the same palette because I can justify that. I can go back, hey, Dave, you know, it's the same palette. And then I hired, oh God, this really talented costumer, because they let me do that kind of stuff. To do all the students, there's like 30 students. And so you're going to need a closet, right? Which you would refer to a closet for the characters. And the film takes place over about 10 days. So you're going to need a change every day times 30 costumes. So you're going to need 300 separate outfits. Although sometimes, when we wear something, we'll wear the same pants in 2 days later with a different top. So
Sure.
if you're real smart about it, you can make it realer and have less worship. I hired a girl named Dana Pink who I really enjoyed working with. She had done Hot Tub Time Machine and a few other films, and she'd done some wonderful music videos. And she's super creative. And she works out of Warner Brothers a wardrobe. Uh, so I hired her, and I said, so I worked with her, and we put together all the costumes for the students. So we were able to do like really cool. It reminded me of like, what's his name? I can't think of the director. I just can't think right now. But it, we used a lot of like Argyle shirts and shoes and things that were those same bright colors as the students had before, but it was kind of stylish. Like it was its own sort of thing, right? So, and then the real problem was, I hope I'm not boring you guys, but this was kind of an amazing journey to do that fucking film. My
Well,
God.
Amy Lee apparently has been wondering about this for a long time and wasn't aware that you had a story about it. So I'm
Oh,
thrilled by all of
okay.
this.
So anyway, so then I had to deal with these tunics, whatever they were, these Nehru jackets, because they were signature visual in the film. What the supervisor, the female supervisors, the female like the word clearers, and like they had dresses on, right? They had but they all were based on this kind of blue robin's egg blue tunic, right? And so I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with those? So I hired, if this name rings a bell to you, and like I'm saying, when I worked at Gold, they let me hire. Like if I needed a real heavy hitter to handle a problem that the way I would handle it, that no Sea Org member could handle. So I hired Colleen Atwood, who's Colleen Atwood. If you don't know who she is, she's won at least, I think, 6 Oscars and been nominated more times than that. She's basically done every Johnny Depp film. She did Edward Scissorhands. She did Alice in Wonderland. She did the gangster movie he did. She just did, that thing that's on HBO right now, Masters of the Air, the World War II thing. She did that. She won an Oscar for Memoirs of a Geisha, a bunch of other things. She is an amazing costume designer. And she had just worked, and I've always wondered about this because we contacted her. I don't think on our end it had nothing to do with Tom Cruise, but I always wondered because Colleen Atwood had just done Valkyrie, right? Because she designed all the uniforms, all the Nazi uniforms for Valkyrie, right? And it's one of the reasons we called her is because we needed uniforms. And she had done some films with some incredible uniforms. So we called her up and she said, yeah, I'll do it. All right. I'll do your Scientology. Nobody in Hollywood's going to work for Scientology today. This was I believe it was in 2010. Okay. So she was like, I'm going to Rome in like a week to do that gangster film with Johnny Depp. I forget which one that was, what it was called, but she was on her way to do that. She's like, so I met with her in the dining room at Celebrity Center. We had lunch, we talked. I showed her a ton of pictures. I explained the thing to her. I took her into a Scientology film room. This is like one of the most iconic Oscar-winning wardrobe designers in the history of Hollywood. And I took her into the film room and I showed her parts of the film. And I said, listen, Colleen, this thing is just an unbelievable piece of crap. But this costume is really important to these people in terms of they're emotionally invested in this film. And I explained to her the whole thing. Oh my God, she pulled it off. I mean, what she did was an absolute miracle. She knew how to do this. She said, I see what you want. I know how to do this. She personally went to the fabric store, like literally, she designed the costume so that it would fit. And then she designed like kind of a cigarette dress for the girls, right? And she kept. I had gotten them to buy a bunch of Louboutin, what they're called naked. That color, you know, that color is it's like a flesh color. It's
Hmm.
very classy, right? It's very like, and they're like short pumps, right? So yeah, I know a lot about women's fashion, by the way. It's girls like to, my girlfriends like me to take them shopping. But anyway, I'm like not the
I think you and Reese would be able to talk
no, no,
fashion.
no. We
Days.
yeah. She mentioned. Now I don't think I think we could. You're right. We could, but
I know
I don't.
precisely fuck
She'll
all about fashion.
yeah. She'll never invite me on because she's very very picky about people, and I think I'm very threatening to her. I mean, I've reached out to her, but I don't know what the deal is. But so anyway, they look good. And then we got these, and we had girls that look good in the dress. I mean, because not to body shame, but some people are, it's this kind of situation you want to have people that are slender and athletic, and you can fit them in kind of a cigarette skirt, if you know what I mean. It's like a one piece skirt and it kind of fits. It's not too tight, not too sexy, and then they have these beautiful Louboutins, and they have this nail polish, which is because it's a Scientology film, so it's not going to be red. It's going to be like a flesh color, and the lipstick is very it's very subtle. And so I remember Colleen Atwood. I wasn't with her, but the person who went with her to help her on her way to the airport to go do a Johnny Depp film. She ran through the fabric store where she buys fabrics. Like, she personally chooses fabrics for costumes as part of her thing. And she was literally, it was described to me, she was doing it by touch. Not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. She chose this, and there was about 4 fabrics, and then we had them all sewn, and we camera tested them, because that's what you do. You have to light them and shoot them on camera to see if they're going to work. So then she
That's how I
says,
choose
well,
all my fabrics, honestly. Every single piece of
sorry,
clothing I buy. Every
you
single piece.
camera test, right? You camera test it, right? Don't you? All your clothes?
Not a single
No, I'm
thing.
just
No,
joking.
but by feel. I
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
through
yeah.
the shop, I
Yes,
have to touch everything
and
because
you're
I'm
smart because
really
yeah, yeah.
sensitive to tactile.
Well, yeah, but also the touching, it talks about somehow it spoke to her about how they would sew. Like,
Okay, sure.
could they be sewn into the garment that she was envisioning?
Yep.
Because it's a difficult garment. It's very, very sharp. I wish I had pictures of it, but it's like a narrow jacket, and she did a slightly muted robin's egg blue, so it wasn't quite so brash and electric. Anyway, and then so she sent the job with her designs to a tailor in North Hollywood who I never knew about. He was the go-to guy for uniforms for Hollywood movies, and he was the guy who made the costumes for Valkyrie, right? And those costumes were beautiful if you saw the film. So yeah, it was. And I shot the whole thing, and I actually, the next time we're on, I have a 5-second piece of video that was that Golden Era Productions put into a video that they put online. So I do have a 5-second piece on the set that shows the white and silver set, and shows the scenics outside of the one that I did. And it was released, and the big concern that Miscavige had that the students were going to freak out, it went away. So they all looked at it, and it was like, oh man, it's beautiful. So, but yeah, I would love to go on. I would go on with Reese. You guys can reach out to her if you're fans of hers and tell her to do it, because I've listened to her talk about fashion. I'm like, oh yeah, I could, yeah, like I was married once, and I've had a number of girlfriends, and I got to tell you, there's not one of them that I didn't go shopping with. Guys usually don't go shopping with their girlfriends and wives, but I'm like, no, no, and because I enjoy. Sometimes in commercials, you go and you shop because you don't have a lot of time, and you don't have time to mess around. So you go with a stylist and you pick out clothes because you're shooting tomorrow. And I always enjoyed that. I always enjoyed the creative aspect of that. So
I'm hopeless with shopping. Hopeless.
yeah,
I
I'd
do it
be
as
because
little as possible.
yeah,
I
I know what you mean. I don't really anymore. I mean, I'm older and whatever, but I didn't. My dream man will dress me. You damn right, Duchess Diana. Yeah. So I always thought it was a lot of fun to be able to, I mean, to honestly like work and put outfits together. I did a lot of fashion work. I did when I was doing commercials. I did a lot of work in that area, so I kind of knew a lot about that. But anyway, sorry for the long-winded story. I hope that answers your question, Amy Lee SP. Uh,
I think it
oh,
does. I
I'm
think
sure
it
I'll
does.
think of other things. Yeah. Anyway.
I love the detail, and I think that people are more than one person in here is like, oh, I love listening to him go off on tangents like this. I love listening to the deep dives, or really getting into the stories. People are really liking it. So, I mean, don't sweat about it. There's
Yeah, no, I just sometimes I don't know. I have my fair share of imposter syndrome or complex or whatever. So sometimes I don't want to be enforcing too much of myself. And even if people are enjoying it, I'll kind of tend to back off and stuff because I'm on the surface. I'm somehow often mistaken for being what's the word? I don't want to say narcissist because, unfortunately, remember the word conceit? We used to have a word called
Mhm.
conceited, and
Mhm.
then one day somebody decided that's not a word anymore. The word's narcissist, which is BS because
And I think the
most of
word
what
narcissist is being overused.
yeah, I
Um,
think everybody agrees that. So I'm trying to bring back the word conceited, and like so sometimes I get seen as being a bit elitist and a bit conceited, and where in fact, like if you know me, I know for a fact the opposite is actually true. I'm actually kind of shy and self-effacing, but
and also I heard the phrase supervillain bounced
oh,
around.
did you hear that?
Yeah,
The
and you are in your blanket fort, tris of solitude.
yeah,
Mm,
and I did make $1 billion off the church, right? A billion with a B.
yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Brian
I could.
says he's been on with Reese, she's not that picky, and honestly, I went on with Reese once as well, and she wants to have me on in a couple of
Well, I
weeks to
think
talk
I
more about
no,
the cruise,
I've actually
so
reached out to her, and she and I kind of like I was watching her one day, and it's tough to watch everybody. It was one day I was watching Reese, and she was talking about a certain mixing matching of some certain clothing items and with shoes and blah blah blah. And I made a suggestion. I said, well, that would look great with a blah 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 blah. And she was like, oh yeah, huh? And then she went, huh? Maybe I should have Mitch on. And then it was like, no. But she didn't say that, but it was like I was like,
no, but you
and,
know what? The thing is that she's
I
she's so
sh
newly out, and
yeah, she is.
she was
But
so
yeah,
she has
I
so
don't
much
wanna
eaten
I don't want
into her that
yeah, I
I
don't wanna
feel
get
like
up I don't wanna get judgmental about it, Cricket. I don't wanna get the thing is,
that's
I
fair.
think she's great. The thing that's so great about the Cricket, I mean, about you, and no, this is true about you as well. She's done a bigger job of it because I think she's tried harder. It's called building a community, and I've heard people criticize her content because what is she really talking about at the end of the day? And I'm like, what does it matter? She's built a community, and what's important, not just on YouTube but in life, is having a community. So that's why I was interested in, and if she was interested in collaborating, because I had a lot of respect for that idea of community. But she's kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm intimidating, or maybe because I had this out with Aaron Smith Levin, which that's a thing of the past. We've definitely made our peace, and that's all good. That was just a stupid nothing thing, a tempest in a teapot. May I quote Shakespeare and say that was a tempest in a teapot?
You may.
So, but yeah, there you go. Julie McGuire 708 said, I think Reese gets intimidated. And I think that's the problem. I think she might think I'm intimidating, and that's not the case. Like she's taken along with very well with Sterling. Sterling is he's so unintimidating as a person. I mean, I've known him since he was like 13. And
Right.
he's just, I had him in a bunch of films because he is just easy person. And he was a good looking kid, and he could be goofy, and it would be funny without being like making, without being an idiot. But and it's great to see them together. But anyway, whatever. Reese is about community. I really respect that, and I'm not in the least offended. She made a crack one day. She said, somebody said something about me, and Reese was like, ew, he's not my type. So I wrote her a message on Facebook, and I said, I heard you said I'm not your type, and I have to tell you I'm very relieved because now we don't have to have that conversation. so, and she thought that was really funny. And I've kind of reached out to her and said, yeah, we could talk about fashion, it would be great. But whatever, she's kind of picking her brand. And I do think some of it was because there was this rift, Aaron said something about me, I overreacted. A lot of people were like, torches and pitchforks, and I was a bad guy, super villain. And then later we made up, and kissy kissy, we're all good. But Purple Groovy says Reese really likes you, Mitch. Yeah, I really like her too, but maybe we're not destined. Maybe Reese and I are unrequited love. Who knows? So
Yeah.
yeah. But I dig the way she tells her story. It's just like, it's plus I'm LA, man. I'm West Hollywood. She's Kansas City. That's the reason I wanted to go on with her, just because of I am a lover of contrast. Like, I write a story and you better believe it's going to be, at some point it's going to be big, and at some point it's going to be teeny, because there isn't a human experience that feels authentic that doesn't have a massive difference of scale contained in it. Okay. So, and that's my philosophy cake for you guys tonight as a creative statement. And so
Mm,
Reese and I
cake.
are very much a contrast. That's how I see it. But uh,
I like cake.
yeah, you like philosophy cake?
I like cake.
Okay, yeah, I do too. I'm a cake person. Occasionally I have ice cream, but if it can't, what kind of cake do you like? What's your favorite cake?
It's tough to say because there are so many delicious cakes, but I
Not tough
will
for me.
say that the first time I was on a cruise actually, and they were having the chocolate buffet, and it was very exciting, and I got a piece of cake that was next to it was on the cake plate next somebody had swapped the signs is what it was, and so I
Ah,
didn't think that I was picking up chocolate ginger cake.
oh boy, that sounds like amazing.
I thought it sounded horrifying, so I took a piece from the next one over,
Right,
but
right.
I wound up getting the chocolate ginger cake because somebody
That
swapped
sounds great.
the signs. I was not sure what was happening in my mouth, but it needed to keep happening forever. It was amazing. And now I totally want more chocolate ginger cake.
Yeah, I'm a chocolate cake guy. Hey, you know what? Would you put this up? Uh, Somebody said, I don't know why people think they should talk about other creators. That was my whole point earlier. That I kind of I don't like doing it. Why do people have the need to express what they think about other creators on YouTube when it's negative? If it's not your cup of tea, move on. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so I want to stay away from it. And I hope nobody thinks I said anything negative about Reese. I didn't. I'm not even in the least resentful that she never got back to me, because it's just like we're all still here together anyway. It doesn't
Yeah.
even matter if we go on with one another, and
And
it
as
doesn't.
Brian says here, Reese takes a while to get back to you. I know from personal experience, as do
Yeah,
I.
that's. I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting, and I have no problem with it.
She either gets back to you immediately or she doesn't.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. So
There's not a
it's
whole lot
fine.
of in between with that
Yeah, it's
woman.
fine, and it's just like Reese became legitimately an influencer, and she became an influencer for people who were underrepresented in the world of influence, right? That
Yeah.
didn't want to look at another shuffle dancing, perfect body, gym workout fanatic, right?
Yeah.
And that is so valid. And she built a community about that. And when she did that, she didn't even know what an influencer was. That's what an authentic person she is, right?
She
She,
still doesn't know what an influencer
yeah,
is, but
exactly. And
yet
she is one. So it's kind of really funny.
she
Hey,
totally
none of
is.
you
She talked
guys,
to the place at
you can
work,
close the door if you want.
the
Sorry.
place that for which she works, about getting a little discount code for her
I, yeah,
watchers.
yeah, yeah.
And so she got this discount code, and it was right before Christmas.
Right.
And all of a sudden, sorry, I'm fixing things here behind me.
No,
Things
it's
got a little.
good. It looks like as long as you're not having an epileptic fit, I'm okay.
No, I'm not having an episode. Um, Next thing you know, hundreds of orders pour in.
I saw that. I saw part of it, and it just was overwhelming. She overwhelmed the business, and yeah,
And
that's
the
what an
owner of her
influencer is.
shop called her and said, "I've been crying for the last 24
Yeah,
hours
yeah,
because the
yeah,
orders just keep coming in, and
yeah,
this has changed our lives."
yeah. I'm surprised that a major brand hasn't reached out to her and just,
No
because,
shit.
yeah, because it's an untapped market. I mean, come on, she's not your typical physique. She's not your typical. I don't work out, and she eats crappy food because she doesn't have whatever it is. She's missing part of her digestive tract or whatever. She's diabetic.
Gallbladder.
She, yeah, she's got all this stuff going on, and yet she has a fashion and a glamour that shines through that, and that has got to be really empowering to an underrepresented number of people who have formed a community about her, and I'm like, wow. To me, that is like it's heartwarming. It's actually like because these people are not being they're not being represented that are gathering around her, and it's not they may have come around her because of Aaron and because she had got she got smacked with a fax machine and got abused in Scientology and all that stuff. But they're not staying. They didn't stay for the story. They stayed for Reese, and I
Yep.
really respect that.
Yeah, she
So
influenced me. I bought one of those 3-barrel waving irons because
yeah,
I'm hoping
yeah,
to do something with this goddamn hair, and so she told me that that's how she gets her hair to look like that, and
yes, yeah,
I
yeah.
said, "Fine, that's it. I'm putting it on my Amazon wish list."
Yeah, she'll never do it, but, there's, like, agents that handle influencers. She could probably get an agent, and they oh, yeah, yeah, that
There are agents
just
that handle everything,
yeah,
Jesus.
no, I know, but I mean that are really specifically oriented in that space, so
I
she
mean, I
could
think I
actually tur
told you when I lived in LA, I was the only person over the age of 6 months without, like, headshots or a script. I didn't have an
well,
agent.
what were you waiting for? I mean, that's where all the work is. Why wouldn't you get one? So,
I was
I'm
busy
pulling
being
your leg.
Keith Cook and dildo washer.
Yeah, right. No, I was just pulling your leg. Yeah, I know what you're I know, everybody in LA's got a script. I know, it's just
I
like
mean, literally, I was standing out back, uh, on one of our shoot days, and I'm standing out back and I'm just reading. I'm reading a book, and
yeah,
one of the local, uh, dudes in the neighborhood who was experiencing homelessness came by, and we knew him, we knew him by name, and he
right.
was very friendly, and he's like, "You reading a script?" I'm like, "Even the homeless guys are in on this? Does he have one in his shopping cart? He might." But n I'm like, "No, it's just a book, run of the mill, sorry." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, if you need somebody to read your script," and I'm like, "Don't even have one."
That's funny. Yeah, well, if you grew up in West Virginia, you'd be working in the coal mines, so, it's an industry town, and people in industry towns, they tend to work in the industry, but most
Yeah,
people in Hershey, Pennsylvania work for the Hershey Company, so it's just this is kind
or
of
for
a
the
company.
amusement park.
Yeah, exactly, or whatever it is, I don't really know, but so there you go.
Alright, so I've got a shitload of pinned comments here. Let me
Uh-oh.
get to
Let's try
these.
to get through them. I'll try not to gas bag or go off on long tangents.
As I
What do you got?
always told Doug, "Don't worry, don't apologize for the ramble. We're here for the ramble."
Okay. I
And
appreciate that.
really the only time constraints are yours because
What
I'm
time is it?
I'm
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I
I'm
have
the
to get up.
asshole who's up all night,
Yeah,
so
I'm starting my book once again tomorrow. I'm starting from scratch because I my everything's been wrong that I've done, and I thought I'd be done with it in 2 weeks, and it's not going to. Anyway, I've gotten some. It's really hard. I've directed hundreds of hours of audio narration and audio books and stuff, but it's really hard when you have to record yourself and then you have to perform, read, perform, and then you have to direct. And and I keep directing myself while I'm reading, and so it's really bad. Like I've listened to it, I'm going, that's really bad. I don't want any. So, but I finally, after a couple of months of trying, I think I have the right performance pacing, and where you'll listen to it. So anyway, but so I just have to get enough sleep to get up in the morning and do that, which
okay.
means I have to go to bed by 4. So
Alright, so we've got a
I'm
little time.
good. I'm good.
Right, let's see here. From Pint Size, what has been an intelligence op recently? Sorry for the late question. I think you were talking about this earlier on.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I made a comment. This is just kind of my observation because there's this real stupid level of OSA. Like there's the hate sites and like the Stan League, the fake thing, which Miscavige, based it on the JDL. I mean, one day he said, we need something like the JDL, where the JDL is legit. Not the JDL, but and the ADL.
Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, and the the Anti-Definition League, if you go to their website, they'll have all these bad definitions, and it's really funny. No, the Anti-Defamation League.
No, it's just killing me because the anti-psychology or the anti-Scientology crowd could be seen as the Anti-Definition League just because of all
Yeah,
the
they
word
are because
swearing that
we're
they don't have
trying
to
to.
do anymore.
Yeah, we are the we should use that. We're the Anti-Definition League. So, but
You
if you
heard it
go
here
there,
first,
if
folks.
you go there, you'll see a lot of stuff for LGBTQ rights, which they also work on. And you don't could you imagine them actually coming out and being promoting LGBTQ rights? Anyway, that was Miscavige's idea. We need something like the Anti-Defamation League for Scientologists, except I'm going to vet everybody on there and blah blah blah. But my point is, at that level, OSA does this really stupid stuff. They're like a clown car, right? And that kind of distracts everybody away from the things like the op they ran in LA getting Aaron arrested. I mean, they do these high level intelligence ops, and so my point was that the little fissures in the group, they know how to feed those. But somebody was saying, what was not somebody, pint size was saying, what has been an intelligence op recently? Sorry for the question. Well, I just mentioned one. The Aaron getting arrested, like that thing was, that was like, that was like people who knew that there was going to be an assassination, so they all hid inside. I mean, they closed the door on the place. 2 seconds after he shows up, the guy walks by. That thing was so carefully orchestrated. They all knew he was coming because he announced it. Jeffrey Augustine did a great piece on it, blew my mind. So that's a really good idea. I mean, of an OSA op. I mean, they're out there because remember, per Scientology policy, they run two types of investigations. They do the noisy one, where they stand outside your house all day with a camera and you think those people are stupid. They're there to intimidate you. And then they do the covert one that you don't see coming, where they're getting your fingerprint and they're putting it on a bomb threat and blah, blah, blah. Here's a good, like when I was in and I was working very reluctantly, pushing back against Anonymous because it just bored me to death because they didn't understand what Anonymous was or what even was happening. They did this thing like and I know this to be a fact. There was an anthrax scare at the little mission in Glendale, right? And there was a huge response of first responder police, fire, FBI piled on the place. And I was living in Glendale at the time, and my next door neighbor, who I mentioned before, was a cop and worked in the anti-terrorism department, knew I was a Scientologist, called me up and he said, "Hey, are you okay? There's an anthrax scare against the Scientology place, and you're a Scientologist." He knew I was like a big shot there or something, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 I'm fine, but thanks for calling." And then Warren McShane, who's I forget his post, he's a top. They call him the professional liar for RTC because he's just a great liar. I don't know, he's a corporate part of the structure. Warren McShane calls me up and he says, "Mitch, there's an anthrax scare in Glendale, and we're going to put a security detail watching your house for the next few days." And I'm like, "You really don't have to do that." I'm like, "Say no, we're going to do that." They did the freaking scare themselves. Like they engineered that scare. The reason they did it is because Miscavige couldn't stand the idea that Anonymous isn't a group with a leader. Like like he can't deal with it. Like they're always having to say, they're having to say this organizer, this leader, this guy. They'll do the same thing with the TikTok guys. They'll say it's all somebody's organizing and paying for the whole thing.
Right.
So, but the whole plan was so then when the L. Ron Hubbard birthday happened in Florida, and in 2008, which is when Anonymous was going on, and they were going to show up in mass, he could hire PIs. He could find out who these were. A lot of them were young people who were still living with their parents. He could find out who they were, and he could send PIs to their house. And he could say, "Oh, by the way, little Johnny is now part of a terrorist group," right? Which, of course, when I heard that at a meeting, like I heard him saying, "Yeah, not the anthrax part of it," but I was at a meeting and he's saying, "Yeah, we're going to find out who this. We're going to get PIs. They're going to go to their houses." And boy, when their parents find out what little Johnny was doing, which really shows how little that Miscavige understood about family politics. Because wait, you're telling me my son or daughter is exercising their First Amendment rights? Get off my porch. Plus, people hate them in Clearwater. So he would come up with these stupid ideas, but still, that was a high level op that they pulled off. So,
All right. So what do we have next? We have Cookie Monster, aka CO Bilf, Osa, and she said will
my good
fail
friend.
because my gastroenterologist has treated my fissures.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm glad to
Thanks,
hear
you,
that.
Bill. Yeah.
Really glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, because the gas from the fissures is just like, oh my God. You can't even blame
Yeah,
it on your dog. It's so bad.
seriously. Stephanie East is coming in with the Xenu Marlene and not a moment too soon.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Cheers. Purple Groovy says, "Hey, Chow and Mitch, I remember Doug saying that rage unconfronted takes its own path. What do you think he meant by that?"
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
I think what he meant was that the rage, it's going to then have a life of its own, and it's going to take you places you don't want to go. You get what I'm saying? Because it's not mindfulness. You're not present. It's like I discovered for myself about it's like that old saying. It's similar to that old saying. Revenge is like drinking poison and thinking the other guy's going to die. Like
Oh,
once that,
resentment. Yeah.
yeah, resentment is like um, it's like that thing of like the rage is then going to take you on a path where it is in control, not you. I think that's what it means. It's kind of like blame is like it's like taking a wrecked car and throwing it in front of you. So, and on the road to healing, you throw wreckage in front of you called blame. And then when you stop blaming other people, even if they were responsible, but when you stop blaming them, you can get rid of that wreckage. Because you're going to have to heal whether somebody else is at fault or not. You're still going to have to find your way through it. They're not going to necessarily come back and make your life right. Right. If it's your parents fucked you over, they're not going to come back. Chances are they're not going to show up and say, listen, I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what Doug meant. I think you don't handle that rage, it's going to take you down a path that you may not want to go on.
That sounds pretty
Yeah, I
reasonable.
mean, I guess the other side is if somebody's raging at you and you don't confront it, it's going to take its own path. But I think kind of either one works. But
For sure.
Doug was a wise man disguised in the personality of a kind of a slacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
a brilliant human uh
yeah. Who
in
pretending to be a slacker.
in the skin of a surfer stoner dude.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
He was kind of our dude for this community. He was
He
the
did
dude
indeed
for
abide.
yeah.
Bless him.
Well,
People have been
damn, Doug. I
declared for
hope you know
far
that we're
less
still
than.
honoring. I'm sorry. I just had to say, damn, Doug. I hope you know that we're still honoring you because we are.
Oh, he remains in our memory. And
Yeah.
this past week, I was at my best friend's place, and he loved her dog. He was besotted with her dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and my best friend was really sad when she found out that that he passed, because he never got to meet Elvira. He never got to
Mm,
meet the dog.
mm.
And I told her, I said, none of us knows what the afterlife looks like. But if you see a 6'2" blonde guy in your backyard playing with the dog, but he's not real solid, you'll know that Doug finally got to meet her.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I interrupted you. You were about to say something.
Oh, I was just reading this comment from Amy Lee, because we were
Uh,
talking about who can call themselves an SP and who can't.
yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
Amy said that people have been declared for far less than what you're doing at this moment. So,
yeah, it's true.
and
You
Amy Lee
shouldn't.
was in. So,
You shouldn't have to qualify.
I'm gonna take
But
it from her.
yeah, but you shouldn't even have to qualify your credentials. Yeah, it's ridiculous conversation.
Fair enough. Let's see. We've got Marie J selling hang hello and hi Mitch. Hello,
Hello.
Marie. She's in Jersey.
Oh, great, great.
Marlo says, question, Mitch, are you decorating the blanket fort? How's the recording coming? We covered that part, and looking
Yeah, we.
forward to the audiobook.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I know. Inappropriate. I don't know to call her inappropriate or heifer, but she mentioned just be yourself. I mean, the point is, it's when it comes to acting, like you can't just be yourself because there's a whole machine in front between you and yourself. Like you have to get it down onto a recording, and you kind of have to find the way to be yourself because it gets lost really quickly. So I'm not trying to be something else. I'm trying to really be myself, but there's the artificiality of recording and all that. It really pushes against it.
Trying to
And
find the right way to convey
yeah,
what the
what
yourself
I really
is
meant.
in
Like,
that moment.
what did I really mean? Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate the sentiment, and I'm working on being myself. It's a little harder than just be yourself. I think that's about, and this is not against Heifer, but when you direct people, the worst thing you could say to them is be yourself. That would just fuck them up so bad. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
because
act
nobody.
naturally. Okay, but those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
2
act
different
naturally.
things. Am
Yeah,
I acting
yeah.
or am I being natural? What do you want?
I would tell you my favorite direction I ever gave anybody, but it's really disgusting. It's really profane and disgusting. But
Oh, we're here for it.
yeah, but it involves the words, uh, suck my. I could just say blank.
You can say whatever you want on this one.
Okay, yeah,
We're
because you
past
don't
5
care.
minutes in.
No, it was a film
Unless
that
you're
I.
worried about tarnishing your lily white image,
Oh
sweetheart.
no, no, no! I don't have a will. Yeah, exactly.
Say what you want.
No, so I did. It's a film that I did for Gold. It was called, I think it was called TRs in Life. Anyway, it was a black and white film. There's a guy, very good actor who I spoke with recently, Alan Barton. He owns the Beverly Hills Playhouse. He left. He did a play called Disconnection. He wrote and performed a play. He wrote a book. He's a declared SP. So he was playing a surveyor who would walk up and ask questions, right? And a woman is supposed to answer the door, and she's sexy and she's in a bathrobe, and she kind of leans against the door jamb and gives him this look, like, that look, right? Like, uh, and the look on his face was not right, not right, not right. And she asked him a really innocuous question, right? And then his expression was very neutral, and he's a really good actor. And I thought, what can I tell this guy so he could really get the idea that she is being extremely inappropriate with him right now? And so after a bunch of takes, I pulled him aside and I said, look, Alan, when she asks you, when she answers whatever it is, she's saying, you're saying, can I ask you a few questions? And she kind of says, sure, right? I said, just imagine in your mind that she's saying, would you like me to suck your dick? And so Alan, and he didn't know me, and this is a Scientology film, and nobody heard me say this, right? And he got kind of embarrassed. He didn't know how to react because it's a film for Gold, and it's like there's a bunch of Sea Org members standing around, and this right, he doesn't really know me. So the next take we did, she opened the door and she said whatever it is she said, and the look on his face was amazing. He was so super uncomfortable. He was just like, so sometimes you have to do stuff like that. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So
sorry, I
this
probably
is
could have
this is the
abbreviated
burning
that.
question. Are you decorating the blanket fort?
Well, no, I'm done. I'm pretty much done. I put these Clios out here. Can you see these? Like, here, let me
Yeah,
move out of the way. No, I don't think you can see them because do you have another frame format? They're on the other side. Oh, they're on that side.
I
They're
have
on
no
that.
idea what I'm
They're
doing.
on that side. Okay. So I put a couple of Clios that I won like before I worked for Gold. I don't think I'm going to put much else in it. I think it's pretty decorated.
Okay.
I did add if anybody's interested, I added a diffusion filter to my camera. I had one I changed lenses when I moved to the blanket port. I went to a wider lens, and my filter doesn't fit on it because it's the front of the lens is larger. And I was using a diffusion filter. Anybody's interested, it's called a black mist, right? And basically what that does is it black mist filters, they actually have a bit of a black sheen, where regular diffusion filters have a bit of like a white sheen. And what it does is it bleeds into the shadows. It has a really pleasing look, right?
Okay.
It doesn't just cause highlights to bloom, but it also causes shadows to kind of spread out. And it's really pretty. So I thought the quarter wasn't enough, so I bought another one. I need to buy it for this lens, and so I bought an eight. I mean, I thought the eighth was enough, so I bought a quarter. It's called a quarter black mist diffusion filter.
Okay.
So that's the only thing I've done, and all I can say is it's cheaper than Botox. Okay, uh,
Right.
so, but you can see the effect it has on those lights. They look quite different. They have this
Yes.
wonderful sort of glowy, yeah, that's what that is. So
I'm
that's my
actually writing that down right now. I
oh, yeah,
have
it's yeah, if you can I can send you a brand that's not too expensive because the industry standard one, uh, is probably costs $200, so they're very expensive. I think I got this one. It's a really good brand, and it's good enough for this. I think it was like $40 or something. It's not a lot of money.
I have a very good friend who's a photographer,
Yeah, but
and,
it'll if I took it off right now, you would see that I look 106. So,
okay.
yeah, I'm just that's in
Wow,
lieu of decorating the cave for looks like it's gonna be a more permanent home than I thought. But the last decoration, I put up the film reel, the one that I got from Gold when they were throwing shit away, and I said, "Oh, I'll take one of those."
sure.
And I put the Clios in, which you can't see in this frame, but other than that, I think I'm done. And then
Nice.
I have my other microphone here. Let me swing this. Oh, it doesn't even it doesn't come into frame, but I have another mic in here that I use for recording the audio. But
Alright, so that's that. Question, comment? I've noticed that Mitch has become easier for me to listen to and watch. You've become more humble. It looks good on you. I think you
thank
should
you very
keep it
much.
up.
Well, because I had to do some self searching because I had to do some self reflecting because I really came on YouTube and I really ran into some friction that I realized that it's kind of the reason I talk about Leni Riefenstahl so much, not that I compare myself with her artistically, but she did all this great work for Adolf Hitler, right? She made the two greatest propaganda films. I mean, I studied them in film school, and we didn't even talk about her politics or if she was a Nazi because that wasn't the point, right?
Right.
And
You talk
she
about
never.
her a lot in your book.
Yeah, I did. I wrote a whole chapter called the seduction of opportunity because she had worked with L. Ron Hubbard, which I know thanks to reading her book, and then David Miscavige gave me a bunch of very valuable documents, correspondence and stuff between she and Hubbard. So, but I've always been fascinated by her because of her connection with the idea of an artist working in the employ of ideology, and that in my case a religion, in her case a fascistic regime. Oh no, wait a minute. Did I get that wrong? Was it
You
the
might have.
opposite? Yeah, I think in her case it was religion. In my case it was a fascistic regime. Oh, well, okay, all the
Either
same,
way.
whatever. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, Leni Riefenstahl said, "What do I have to apologize for? My films win all the top awards." So I kind of thought, like, look, Leni Riefenstahl, she got recognized for doing all this great work. I want to be recognized too. Forget the Nazi part of it, right? And people were like, "Nah," which means I did a really bad job of introducing myself and telling my story because I was very. This is the conclusion I came to. It doesn't mean that I'm still not, but I really did humble myself and really self-reflect. I think I was able to do that because I'd written the book, and in the book uh, I was very vulnerable, and the voice that I wrote it in. Uh, so yeah, and then at the same time you start to really see the value of this community. That even though it's parasocial, it's extremely supportive and very helpful. And it's kind of like you have to be authentic. It may be hard to be yourself on a recording and you need some work on it, but it shouldn't be hard to be yourself live, right? So I did a little work on it, and that's that. It's just, but I appreciate your recognizing that because it's like I no longer feel that I should be recognized for the great work that I did. I don't. I no longer. I know what I did that was aesthetically, technically, creatively good, even though it was for the wrong. I need that. I don't need the validation from. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And I
So
mean, the thing is that you also recognized in your book, A, what shit base material you were given to work with.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
also B, everyone being astounded that something happened the right way, and yet it was because they finally hired some people who knew how to do the fucking job,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
which may have been
the,
a direct quote.
No, 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 no. Yeah, I think it might be. It sounds close enough. But the thing is that if you look for examples of failures to point out the failures of Scientology, like you can talk about it all day long, but there's really some really good examples. One of the greatest examples of Scientology's failure is, of course, Danny Masterson. That's a failure of such magnitude that it can potentially bring the whole thing down. They had whatever 40 some years to fix that kid, and they never did. And they so desperately need to hide, to cover up that failure and to protect their system. They're willing to commit some really grievous crimes for which people should go to prison for. But one of the other failures was Hubbard proclaiming in 1963 that Scientology was only going to work if it could be taught correctly, and it can only be taught correctly if people could see how it's done. And you can only see how it's done if they saw a film, because he couldn't travel the world and teach everybody, and he could never get those films done. And he read books and gave books to read and wrote and claimed to be, the auteur's auteur and this great expert in sound and cinematography and still photography, and wrote volumes about acting and set designing, and on and on and on. And his people followed his very best instructions and made the worst films ever made. And pretty much everything they did that is of any significance, they had to go outside, because it does. And that's not to toot our horn. Those of us who went in there, myself, other directors I hired, sound recorders, sound engineers, sound mixers, designers. I mean, they
Fucking
hired.
Jeff Hawkins.
Yeah, well, Jeff Hawkins, he joined the Sea Org, so he hired me. Well, his boss hired me, but
But he's
I mean,
another one who actually knew what the fuck he was doing.
yeah. Well,
And
Jeff was kind of a rarity in the Sea Org. Jeff was a rarity because, no, I'm serious, because
he was, I
no,
believe you.
because Jeff designed, he envisioned a marketing campaign of such magnitude in terms of its genius that, in a few short years we sold 10 million Dianetics books. I mean, that book was released in 1950. By 1985, it had sold 3 million copies, which is abysmal. And Jeff went to work on the whole thing. 3 years later, it had sold 10 million more copies. It was at 13 million. Miscavige couldn't handle that happened, so he pulled all those guys up to gold. Jeff got rewarded by being punched in the face and kicked out of the Sea Org.
Yeah.
And to this day, they have never been able to duplicate the success they had with Dianetic. I mean, there was a huge influx of people into Scientology in the 90s, and it's because of what Jeff did in the 80s. And he even wrote a book, which you read, and he even says how he did it in the book.
It's
That
one of
book,
the first it's one of the first books by an ex-Scientologist that I read.
yeah, Jeff is
His is one of the first.
like nobody was doing any marketing of Scientology. But the
Well, and
funny
nobody
thing,
knew fuck all about the nascent cable market at the time. It was so new.
yeah. Well, that's the other reason that it can never duplicate. Yeah. He did
It
figure
was
that
kind
out.
of a
So
perfect storm.
yeah. And the thing is, yeah, Jeff is he's still a genius. he was a he was a genius and always a delightful guy. Uh, but yeah, so I met him in around 1985 or 86. There was a woman, I had her on my channel once. She's not interested in speaking out because she's too busy doing other things. Wonderful woman named Caroline Mustard, who was a friend of mine now, and now a dear friend of mine. She was the marketing exec international. She was over that marketing team that Jeff was on. And then she did something else in marketing, and Ron Miscavige Jr. came on as marketing exec international, and then Rosemary was his assistant. I think a lot of us know that story. So there was kind of this group of us, me and Jeff. There's a couple of other public advertising guy named Rick Rogers, and then this girl they brought in, this woman Jan Gildersleeves. She's the one that knew cable. She's the one that, like, cable was like it was like the Wild West back then. I mean, people were going to jail for shit they were doing. It's like, America was built by settlers moving west. And when they got to the West Coast, there was no more territory, right? And so it goes like this. These sort of really good people who want a new life, they go west. Then after them, they get the shucksters and the shysters and the people selling snake oil. And then after them, they get the hardcore criminals. And next, they get the sheriff, right? And so the same thing happened in cable. I mean, cable was like it was anything goes, and then the FCC showed up and people went to jail and everything calmed down. But Jan knew that at that time that people were watching cable at 2 in the morning, and they had their credit cards on their nightstand, and they were feeling a little down, and they, you sell shit, and they slap their card up, and
Yep.
she and Jeff, he figured out the demographic. Anyway, it's a crazy story. I mean, that is a case study of marketing that should be taught in universities. And Jeff's book, he spelled out exactly in the book how he did it, and
Yep.
it should be, what do they call it? Reading, like must read.
Required reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, required reading for all Scientology marketing people on how you do it. So, but they're never going to read it. They
No, of
can't
course
follow
not,
his.
because it wasn't written by LRH, so of course
No,
they're
but
not gonna.
also he's an SP.
Yeah.
There's marketing books up there by non-Scientologists that they've read that are stupid, like what's it called? Heart Cell. There's a book on Heart Cell. I can't remember what it's called. Somebody in the chat might remember, but they have adopted some books. But when I read Jeff's book, I was like, this is crazy. He says exactly how he did it, and those guys will never read it. So
Yeah.
it's just nuts.
Well, Ms. Kim White said she would rather support your store, so she's gonna pick one up there. She's gonna
Yeah,
get a
that's
copy
great.
of
That's
the
great.
book.
It'll take a little longer to get it because I've ordered some from Amazon, some hardbacks, and once I have some of them, then I can start fulfilling those orders.
Nice.
So that's great.
Nice. Pint Size
I
says it is not
appreciate
a
that.
contest. And yeah, speaking of trauma, nobody's trauma is a
Yeah,
contest.
no, it's not.
It's
Yeah, yeah, because
I
we're
sometimes refer to people who are flipping through SPTV all day, every day. I'm like, these are human beings. This is not your personal trauma zoo.
trauma zoo. Yeah, yeah, that's funny. You're gonna throw some peanuts at the
Yeah.
monkeys in the trauma
Yeah.
cage.
Put a quarter in the little machine and get a handful of
Yeah.
weed
Hey, I'll
and
give you. Oh, you got hurt. I'll give you a super chat. Yeah, but yeah, okay. I don't want to be bitter about it, but
yeah. Yeah.
no, oh no. Somebody said, "Is that Jamie and Daniel Mustard's mother?" You want to put that up? Somebody.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
that
sorry. I'm
was.
in the starred comments right now. Let me go back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just let me answer that. That was the inappropriate heifer. Asked Carolyn Mustard. Is that Jamie and Daniel Mustard's mother? No, actually, that was the other Sea Org Mustard, who she had two sons. They're both out and very successful. One of them is a tech, like almost billionaire, and the other one owns like a like notoriously well reviewed eatery. But they all knew each other. Like I just was talking to Jamie the other day. He was really good friends with Carolyn Mustard's older son, right? So the Mustard kids all knew each other from two different families. And they were also, they were friends. They were kind of in that Danny Masterson crowd. They were sort of that age. So
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, this one from Half Derp.
yeah,
Yeah.
we answered the answer is no, but they knew each other.
Uh, yes, night meds. When Mitch
Is
was up
that
top
this? Is that this?
wrangling his dog, and I reminded everybody to take their night meds, but I think it was before you got here, Jen. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
one of the regular features of this show is that I remind people to take their night meds.
I have night meds. I mean,
Okay.
they're mostly nutrition and like stupid weird shit. They're not like psych drugs, but
Mine
I
are
mean,
to
not.
help me sleep, but it's
Huh?
nothing fun to help me sleep because I don't need to be chasing the Ambien walrus.
No,
That's
you don't. Yeah, no, I actually took that once. They gave it to me at Gold. If you think that Scientology is against drugs, just go to Gold. Behind the iron curtain of like Gold, they'll fucking do it.
oh
Like
yeah.
I couldn't sleep, and they needed to get me in session so they could torture me more. So they were like literally got a script for Ambien, and I was like suicidal after 2 days. So they're like, okay, what else? And they literally we went through a whole list of drugs trying to get me to help me sleep. It's just stupid. Those people are just like medical malpractice is just one of the things on the list of stuff that they do. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So Xena Marlene and take your night meds. Kimberly Gabaldon always coming in with the mad emojis to sparkle
Oh my
things up
god,
within there. Yeah.
I love it.
She does not play when it comes to the Xenu Marlening. And she just added the little capsules on recently to
Yeah.
denote that this is the special Xenu Marlene with the night meds.
Well, you should add a couple of syringes because, like, let's not forget about injectables, like my era. Okay, let's not forget about our intravenous drug users. I'm saying, like, you
Well,
should do
I mean,
equal.
I'm okay. So you know how Marilyn crochets.
Yes, I do.
When
That's
you
her thing.
crochet,
That's her thing.
you
Yes,
use a hook.
you do. She's a hooker,
She is a hooker.
right?
She's a fantastic hooker. I do not crochet. I am a lousy hooker,
Okay.
but I knit. And
Oh,
when you knit, you use knitting needles.
right.
So I've been referring to myself for a very long time as a recreational needle user.
Oh, yeah, that works. Yeah, that works. Yeah, I like to have these sayings of like, I would rather, like, somebody proposes that you do something, and I'd say, well, I'd rather shove grapefruit spoons into my eyeballs, something like
Right.
that, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I'd rather
yeah.
take a shrimp fork to the testicles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or I'd rather shove a red hot knitting needle up my pee hole. That's another one. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
My
It,
usual standby for that is I would rather wear a bikini made of angry African hornets
then not.
than
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, angry at yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Jen's a hooker too.
Who?
Jen, Pup
Oh,
Groomer
yeah.
20. She's a
Yeah,
hooker
yeah,
too.
yeah, there's a lot of hookers in the crowd. Well, some of my
Oh,
best friends were hookers, so
we got hookers all over the place up in this bitch. All
yeah.
right.
Have
Now
I
let's
have I earned my cred as a dirty stay up? Or
I believe so.
I shouldn't even ask that, right? It's
I think so. I mean, we've been rolling for 2 hours, bro.
no, fuck
Yeah.
off.
Serious.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go soon then. But let's finish. If we got any more starred comments, let's do
Yeah,
this.
I'll get through the rest of the starred comments here. It is not a contest. We got through that one. Thank you so much, Pint Size. I love how Doug is a unifying factor. He sure as hell is.
Yeah, for a guy who went his own way and was a complete renegade, it is amazing how much he unified people in the. Oh yeah, so you could put up the. Oh yeah, Heifer. She's given it to me because I said S my D. I could have just said S my D, right? But no, I had to go all the way because I wanted my
You said
dirty.
suck my dick. So yeah, you
Yeah,
are in fact a dirty
yeah,
stay-up.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. She
yeah.
said, you've earned it. You've
Thank
earned it,
you,
Mitch.
thank you, Hef.
All right,
What
let's
else we
see.
got?
Doug said the ex-Scientology movement was a cult within itself. Yep.
Yep, it
I can
was.
I can see that for sure.
Well, I don't want to get into a big deal about that, but one of the ways when there's one voice that's louder than other voices, and that voice is not held accountable, then you have a cult.
Yeah, I
And what
agree.
else do we have here?
We have CO Bilf. Everyone's story is going to be the thing that resonates with someone. The Malcolm X wing of the SPs has important things to say, but it's going to be too steep a gradient for some people. I like you
Yeah.
all. We
Well, for
appreciate you,
one
CO
thing,
Bill.
yeah, for one thing, I want to applaud CO Bill for um, actually making a serious statement because usually his statements are always relevant, but they're not always serious. So I really do appreciate that.
That is a true
Um,
thing. But every once in
yeah,
a while, you'll find, especially, I've noticed it happen pretty frequently here,
yeah.
um, that he'll serious up, and I like it.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. Because I always look to him for intelligent comic relief. He says really funny things, and they're like have three meanings, and they're relevant, and like. But that's
Well, I
really a
mean,
good
he did say
statement.
something earlier about you were talking about the reboot of uh, the Battle of or Battleship Potemkin being shot on the Apollo or something
Who
along.
I oh he said that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. Yeah, except they're not going to be able to do the baby cart shot because there ain't no baby carts on the Apollo.
nope.
The favorite shot from Potemkin of the
There were no babies on the they weren't allowing babies on the Apollo or
no,
even imminent babies.
no.
All right. Amy Lee says a lot of communities have fringe snark groups. It's unavoidable once a community is big enough, and that is very true. That is, I find that is very true. Question: now that you have gained all this experience of writing a book, I hope you will write another about growing up in your area and when you were inside the music scene.
Oh, actually, yeah. So this started with that because it started with I was writing a screenplay a couple years ago about that time period, and that takes place in the first 3 chapters of the book. And the funny thing is, I'm going to get back to writing that, and I don't know if it's going to be a book because there's so much about that period that I didn't put in there. And some really significant stuff. But the Easter egg, the title of either the next book or that script is in the first 3 chapters. The name of that story is in there as a phrase. So,
Okay.
because it's part of the story. But anyway, now I'm thinking of doing it. It's a really silly thought, but I was thinking it over the other day because when I get all this stuff done, I'm going to get back to that. And I was thinking, I'm not going to finish the script. I'm just going to write that as a book, right? I don't know. Do you know who Cheryl Strait is? She wrote Wild. She's like my big inspiration. I gave her acknowledgement on my book. I think she is a huge inspiration to me. She wrote the book Wild. It was a autobiographical book, which then Reese Witherspoon bought, and then it was the first Oprah book of the anyway. And it was nominated for Best Picture when it was made into a film, and it's a really beautiful book. And for me, it's a hugely important inspiration to write a book because we had similar stories in that she lost her mother. I lost somebody else, but she lost her mother when she was 24. She was in college studying to be a writer. She dropped out of college. Uh, she was on heroin for about a year. She was severely hypersexual as a reaction, as a trauma reaction. In other words, she was blowing the guys behind the restaurant where she was working. It was very tragic. She strapped on a backpack that weighed 2/3 of her weight, and she set out in the desert. And 11 months later, no, 3 months later, 1,100 miles later, she crossed the border into Oregon. And she literally had found herself on this journey on the Pacific Coast Trail. I can't think about that book without almost crying. And that book was a huge inspiration to me because I had done that. I only did it for 11 days, not 1,100 miles. I did it. I went up Glacier Palisades. I went along the Pacific Coast Trail for 10 days. I should have done it for as long as she did it. So, and I was by myself. She had people she was running into. So this idea that you lose somebody, you lose yourself, you get just, strung out on heroin, you're just like out of control sexually. Your life just explodes. And then you manage to pull yourself together. She's a, New York Times bestselling author. She's married. She's got a couple of kids. She's an absolutely delightful person. And when I listened to her book, I read it again and listened to it maybe twice while I was working on my book. And when I would get stuck, I would go like, I'm not channeling Cheryl Strayed for my book. I'm not trying to copy her structure or anything, but there's something magical about her willingness to communicate and the way in which she does it that was a constant reminder while I was writing, right? And then she also took over what was called it became called Dear Sugar. It's an advice column, and she became famous for writing it. And it was published as a book, which she narrates, and everybody should listen to Dear Sugar because it will blow your mind. It will make you sad. It will make you happy. It will solve problems for you. It will show you have problems that you never even knew you had, and then it'll point the way to maybe solving them. It is actually better than any therapy that I've ever had in my life, this book. And it is a gift from the heart that she did this for no money. But eventually she got paid really well because the book did really well. And then it was turned into a series on Hulu, which I highly recommend you watch, called Tiny Beautiful Things. And so it's kind of an assignment I'm giving to the class. Everybody should go watch Tiny Beautiful Things on Hulu and then report back. And it's essentially, but the reason I brought this up is Cheryl Strayed, she tells her story in Wild. Then she writes a fictional book that's complete fiction, but all of the elements of the trauma and the loss and the mother dying and the drug use is part of that story. So she's not fictionalizing her story. She's writing a fictional story that reflects her true story. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was really intrigued by that because that's been done by a couple of people. Greta Gerwig did that in Lady Bird. She wrote a book, and I'm like, well, this is autobiographical because I know Greta Gerwig's story. I know she grew up in Sacramento. I know she had a difficult time with her mom. All these things that are in Lady Bird. And then I read an interview with her, and she says, "No, that's a reflection of my life. That's not my life. It's not biographical." I saw her do it. I saw Cheryl Strayed do it, and I sort of saw the value of doing that as an art form with your experience.
Sure.
So, and I was already writing this fictional version of that time in my life before Scientology. So I am going to get back to that, but I thought it would be really funny to end it at the end. The character gets into a cult. So I thought that would be an amazing ending because it would be like, oh my God. But whatever. It's,
Well, they say write what you know.
yeah, 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 yeah. Or get a hold of whatever knowledge you need to write something. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I think everybody probably has one great book in one great book in them, one great, maybe a memoir, autobiography. Good luck publishing. They don't want to hear from people that aren't famous. I mean, just like look right now. You've got what's his name, the kid from TV, John, whatever his name is. You've got Britney Spears. You've got all these. I looked at an ad today. I was because I was doing some research on Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, oh my God, they're all. It's just like the entire front. The display in the window was just all famous people writing their memoirs. So it's like,
Yeah.
but self-publishing, if anybody's thinking about it, I'm telling you, write me. I'll give you some tips. It's a very doable thing. It's a lot of work, but it can definitely be done. And Amazon may not be the best deal in the world, but you're not going to be out of pocket at all. It's free to publish. So and it's print on demand. And the same with Ingram Spark, which is how you get into libraries and bookstores. You
Sure.
self-publishing at Ingram Spark, and it's their markup, what do you call it? Their whatever the money that you earn from them is that's a
Profit
little
margin.
better, huh?
Profit margin.
Yeah, it's not profit margin. What the hell do they call it? It's your
I
part of.
mean, markup sounds about right.
No, it's no, you know what it is. Hold on. I'll tell you in a second. It's your oh God, it's so stupid. I can't think of this. It's just late. It's just, but I'm gonna look it up here real quick.
The only word
Yeah.
I never forget is aphasia.
Aphasia. Isn't that a brain disease? What is that?
That's the condition where you forget
Oh,
words.
well, you know what? I have a memory class for you that you should take. I'm telling you, cricket. Let me tell you about my memory class. Forget everything you know about memorization.
All right. All right.
Okay. And let me tell you how to really do it. Yeah, aphasia. That was funny. Yeah. So let me see. It's what you earn as a content creator of whatever the content is. It doesn't matter if it's YouTube or a book or a movie. Uh, what is this? Not residual. You guys are going to kill me because it's such a stupid word. I'm going to tell you in 1 second because I just got,
Royalties?
yeah, royalties. Thank you. I just got a notice from, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, royalties. Royalties. Yeah, there it is. Right. Whoops. There it is right there. And whoopee woo kaye. Look at that. I got from Amazon today. Can you read that? It says I got, oh, no, it
I
disappeared.
can't.
No. It's just funny. It says here, you can't see that, right? Because the light's on it. Here, watch.
Yeah, it's too.
No, anyway, it says today was an off day. My royalty estimate for this day was $21.97.
Woo.
So you whoopee. That's like Starbucks money. But yeah, royalty. That's what I meant. Yeah, artsy tartsy got it. Royalties, absolutely. It's like what musicians and all that get. So, but it's very doable if you want to write a book.
All right. Good
And
to know.
I am really bad about you know somebody calls me up and asks for help. I really I always feel obligated. I have to Can I have some advice about how do you write a book? I'll spend an hour writing something so horrible.
Comment, Lorna Carlton, an ex-Scientologist, may be able to give you some suggestions. She did book signing in chapters across Canada and in the US.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, a road trip.
Yep.
A book signing road trip. Yeah, cool. So if I knew how to be in touch with her, I I know
Lorna,
I did. I know I spoke with one person who was an ex-Scientologist who had published a book having nothing to do with Scientology, and she was talking about doing that thing where you load your car up full of books, which is and go to different bookstores and stuff. It's kind of like what I'm trying to do is to get them to order the book because
right,
and so they pay for the book because I don't want to go that route of like, can I show up at your store with a box of books and try to sell them, and I'll bring chocolate chip cookies and
right,
whatever.
right.
But yeah, I
All I need
what
is a
does this say?
table.
This says, Mitch, my mom publishes through a small company and does her own promotion. Found great success out to airport bookstores near her. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to look that up. I mean, I'm a small company. I'm self-published, but that doesn't mean I couldn't do it. Yeah, that's interesting.
And you've only
Yeah,
got like 97 airports in that area.
not really. That's not really. I mean, we have Burbank, we have LAX, and
Orange
that's it.
County.
No, but that's a drive. That's like who. Plus, I hate Orange County. I mean, I'd rather shove a
Well,
hot knitting needle up my pee hole than drive down to.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of things that
I
I
would
would rather
rather
do than go
borrow.
behind the orange curtain.
Yeah, I would rather borrow your bikini of African wasps than. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'll drive to Laguna because Laguna is great, but there's not that many airports really that have
Question,
bookstores.
Mitch, do you have any thoughts on Mad God, the stop animation film that came out a year or two ago?
No, because I didn't see it, but I should probably watch it. I'll make a note to watch it, and then I'll get back to you. I didn't see it. I hate it that somebody says, "Hey, do you have thoughts?" And I go, "Oh, I didn't see it," because I try to see everything.
Kathy Mitchell says this old girl wants a fort like Mitch has.
Well, Kathy, I did a little video. I don't have it on me. I don't know how to load it here anyway.
Nor I.
Yeah, but I did a little video, and I'll show it again. That actually shows the whole thing. This
Nice.
here is a 4x4 aluminum frame. It's a queen size adult bunk bed. Okay, so it's a and on their website it shows a guy in this space, a musician working at a workstation with a guitar in the background. And that's what gave me the idea. I had this thing when my younger son was living with me. So I took it out of storage and I built it. And there's a mattress above me, which is great soundproofing. Then this is felt, and then I have sound blankets all around me. And then I have another sound blanket that I drop down when I go back there to record. And it's quiet. It's like,
Nice. Okay.
somebody said I got them beat. Their royalties were only $20 for the month. Hey, I did $26 for one day. Whoopee. Oh,
Nice.
Mitch. Oh, that was Mitch. You got me beat. My royalties for this month a little over $20. Well, let's get to work. Yeah, I should probably do like another Indiegogo thing and like raise some money for ads. Because here's the thing about publishing, even self-publishing, there's a bunch of offerings you can buy into to
Yeah.
help you promote a book, and they're really legit. Like the whole book publishing industry. I'm sorry, the book selling industry, like Barnes and Noble and I should say book availability industry, because this also includes libraries. They have computers and they go to these websites where they see the books and they order books, and you can promote yourself as a featured book, but you got to pay for it. So there's a lot of things you can do. If you have some money, you can really promote the crap out of a book.
Yeah.
Well, from a poet, whatever you're doing to earn royalties, I'm pushing for you.
Yeah, let's see here. Doug had some pretty sad and disturbing rage moments toward his parents that he shared with
Yeah,
us. So that
yeah,
quote, yeah, sure
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Jen says it's also a bit harder for you, Mitch, because as I watch you more, I see a man that is still learning who he is and who he wants to be.
Okay, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
Look, listen, part of my writing a book was some people said to me, "But you haven't been out that long." And, most people, I think Mark Headley wrote his book. I think he set the record. He was the first one to really write a significant book. I mean, from an ex-Scientologist. There was obviously books before that.
Right.
John Atack had read a book, and Russell Miller, and there were all these different books. And I think Mark was out for 4 years. He was out in 2005, and his book was in 2009. So I think it was about 4 years. That's pretty quick. I think Mike Rinder's book was probably 10 years, right? Leah's book was probably, all these books. And so, it's there's a lot of value in being able to look back once you're out of something. But there's also, and I looked at that and I thought, yeah, I should wait. And then I thought, no, I want to do it while it's happening. So I was literally like, after that book I wrote, I was like suicidal, and I'm not even kidding. So, but I wanted to go through that process while it was happening, and just write another book later, or write another couple chapters or something. But plus I needed to do it while it was happening, because I didn't know that I was going to be able to get past it. Honestly, to
It can
get
be
past it.
cathartic.
Sorry.
It can be
Well,
cathartic
yeah, it's
too.
beyond cathartic. It's like chocolate cake is cathartic. That was
Mm.
transformative. You know, well, I'm
I want chocolate.
exaggerating, but I always say, Cricket, that there's two kinds of food. For me, there's two food groups. There's food that will help you to live longer and extend your life, and then there's food that makes your life worth living. And
Mm-hmm.
chocolate is in that food group of the food
Yeah.
that makes your life worth living. Because I don't
Agreed.
I don't envy the food Nazis. So should we do the last through and a few, and then bring this to some kind of controlled landing?
Sure. Ooh, 106. That'll get you on
Yeah,
Reese's channel. She does
yeah,
like them extra
I know. I
crispy.
get it. Yeah, she's so funny about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So no black mist diffusion when you go on with Reese, because she wants to see every wrinkle.
Hell no. No, that girl. Are you kidding? That girl is like shoveling on the makeup. I get to keep my filter. I've never.
Okay, that's
Does she
fair.
ever go on like scrubbed clean? I don't think so. I've never seen her.
Sometimes. She's done it a
Okay.
couple of times.
Well, okay. So Reese and I, if she wants to do a stream, we can do. What would you call that? The naked truth. I'll take my filter off, and she can take off. Maybe we should call it. I'll take off mine if you take off yours. I mean, there's lots of funny things you could call that.
Yes, there
If
is.
somebody wants to suggest that to Reese, I'm down. Okay.
I believe in you. I think that this should be a thing that happens.
Yeah, and
Mitch,
you'll be able to see the difference, because you can tell that it's off, because you can see the lights aren't glowing. They'd be
regarding the
sharp.
hot knitting needle, it is called sounding, and some people enjoy it. That's from C.O. Bilf.
Yeah, see, there you go. Well, thank you. He's kind of our what do you call it? Like, he's like our encyclopedia,
He
right?
he is, but
Yeah.
also it comes down to Rule 34, man.
Yeah, I guess. I guess.
And the last one that I have starred is, if you take a road trip, think about taking the loneliest road in America through rural Nevada. You can stop and take a historic train ride, and I can meet you in the pup. That's Jen.
Oh,
She's
thank
in.
you, Pup Groomer, but I'm already on the world's loneliest road. Apparently. Yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to meet you.
You can't be that lonely, Mitch. You have us.
Oh, yes, that's true.
You have the dirty stay-ups.
Yeah, but that's parasocial. I need some real human touch. I don't bemoan it, because it's like, I probably shouldn't say that online. That's a dangerous thing to say.
Also, can you imagine the Scientologist being ushered through the airport seeing an anti-Scientology book signing in the concourse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I printed up those little tickets that said, the content inside the tech center is
They're beautiful.
yeah, rated C for cult.
Yep.
So my son, I told this story, but maybe you guys didn't hear it. So my son very very nicely uh, volunteered to drive out to the printer out in Van Nuys and pick them up, right? Because I didn't do it at Kinko's. I found a really good printer who's actually cheaper than like those Kinko, and really does top notch work. And so they give it to you in a box, and then they tape one of them onto the box.
Right.
And my son said, when the guy handed it to him, he looked down at the thing on the box, looked at my kid, and then cracked up. He handed it to him, like, laughing, like, this is really fucking funny. So that was kind of satisfying. See, everybody hates Scientology. It's just like universal. It's just like,
They are. I mean, when I was at in Aruba last August, and I was at Freewinds.
Uh-huh.
I took a bunch of photos by it, and one of them was the feel my finger photo.
Right.
Um,
Was that like a
and
selfie with you flipping the bird?
it wasn't even a selfie. I showed my flipping the bird and my SP bracelet
Oh, and then the ship was in the
prominently
background?
displayed with Freewinds in the background.
That's nice. That's nice.
And there was somebody behind me. There was, and it was a couple, and the guy was taking photos of the ship, and the wife was behind me, and she saw me shoot this photo, and she said, "I know that there is a story behind that."
Yeah,
And I said, "Yes,
absolutely.
there is." She said, "Is it a good one?"
Absolutely.
I said, "I guess that depends on you." And so she said, "Okay, lay it on me." I said, "Well, do you know who owns that ship?" And she said, "No." I said, "That ship is owned by Scientology."
Really, they didn't know.
And her husband walked over and went, "Are you fucking kidding me? I know
Wow.
who they are. That's a fucking cult. Holy shit. We watched that show on the TV
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Leah." And he was flipping out. And I said, "Yeah, the only place that it says anything about Scientology on the ship is way up at the top where it says Sea Organization
Oh,
Motor
right, 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 right,
And unless you know what the Sea Org is," and he's like, "I
right.
know
You
what the
wouldn't
Sea Org
know.
is."
Yeah.
So it turned out when I got back on the ship, nobody else in the there were all kinds of people on the outside smoking area taking photos of it as well, and nobody knew what the fuck it was. And I'm like, "Oh, that I can tell you what that is. That's the Scientology ship."
Right.
And to a person, not a single positive word to say about Scientology, including the
Yeah,
one
I know.
crusty old dude who was always sitting in the same chair next to the ashtray, never said a goddamn word to anybody. And I could hear him over there going, "Meh, meh, 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 fucking cult, meh, meh,
Right.
meh, brainwashing." And I mean, nobody had anything positive to say about it.
Yeah.
They just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's crazy, and even if they thought something positive, they weren't gonna say it.
Yeah.
Hey, I have to, I know it's not starred, but Margie Barr said is that Margie Barr, sorry, said, "Reese still looks good without makeup." I don't want anybody to think I was saying that she would, look good, not look she does look good without makeup. She does have a natural kind of she's got good skin, and yeah, she looks good.
Well, and
But,
she's 39.
she when she wears makeup, she wears a lot of makeup was my point. So, but I've seen her without makeup. She looks just fine.
No,
Uh,
she's beautiful
and
without.
you just don't wanna see me without my filter because so I should just take it off right now. Here, you want me to do that? You want me to take it off? Here. I'm gonna do it
Take
right
it
now.
off, baby.
Oh, hold on. Here, hold on. Here, hold
That's
on.
how we do dirty stay-ups.
Yeah. We're gonna end we're gonna end dirty stay ups. Mitch is gonna take it off. Let me see. Hang tight, guys. This is a little bit of a technical operation here.
Standing by.
Okay, so, I may not be able to take it off tonight because it's a little. Oh no, there it is. There it is. Oh boy, here we go. I can't believe I'm doing this. So I should just like strip naked and come back on camera. That would be really funny. Okay, here's the filter. Okay,
Okay.
there it is, folks. Do my lights look different? Yeah, see how they look different?
Yep.
Okay, so just to show you guys that I'm fearless. God, I wish I had like a fright mask to put on, some horrible thing. Wow, it's not that different, is it?
It really isn't, Mitch.
No, but I don't get the nice glowy effect on the. See, now you're filtered when I do this. I put it in front of in front of you. Anyway, there you go, guys.
How old do I look when you put the filter in front of me?
Well, you looked, you still look about 42, so I wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, this is in case anybody wants to know. This is the Nano Series Black Diffusion Quarter Miss. This is from K&F, and it's not a bad filter. That's a good,
Did you get
decent
it from
brand.
B&H?
No, I got it from Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, they K&H, they have an Amazon store. This filter company, K&F, whatever it is.
Okay.
They're the best. Anything less than K&F is shit, and you shouldn't buy it. But this is not the most high end $200 filter. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, no
There you
different,
go.
dude. That's
Yeah, well, I
that's
appreciate that. See what it does to my lights when I hold it up there?
yep.
See that? See that? How they get all. See when
Yeah.
I hold it in front of my face, how I look like Brad Pitt. You see how that works? Brad
Uh,
Pitt, not
is
Brad
that
Pitt. Brad Pitt, not Brad Pitt. See that?
oh,
Wes is looking at me like you are so full of shit. I mean, he even got it. Oh,
when
somebody
even
wants
the
to know
dog is
my
like, "What the hell?"
Purple Groovy wants to know my zodiac sign. I should make people guess. I'm a Libra.
Of course
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah, I'm a Libra, and I have like Sagittarius rising and Sagittarius moon. So I've got a lot of, I'm leaning a lot in that direction.
Well, you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother story. The reason that I even know that is a whole story that we'll tell some other time. I don't
Okay.
know why this isn't working.
Because you
My,
have to face him out.
no, because I turned it off.
Oh,
I have to turn it back on. You can turn it off. It's very difficult. The Apple doesn't tell you to do it. See, there it is. Right? Now it'll work.
yeah.
Yeah, there
Party
you go.
Mitch.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's what I am. Somebody said I look fine. Thank you very much. That was Margie Barr. I'm hoping she's talking about without the filter. What are you
Yep.
talking about? Margie J says, "What are you talking about?" Oh,
You look
Marie
great.
J says, "What are you talking about? You look great." Okay, thank you very much. Uh, Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. I'm still
Yeah.
going to use the filter because I like what it does to the light. It does that nice. You can see that it does that nice diffusion look on the light. Da, 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 da. Anyway, yeah, no different, dude. Okay, Stacy, thank you. Okay, good. I think we need to like. I have like therapy in the morning, and then I have to record. I had this
Okay, so you
wonderful
should probably
therapist, by the
go.
way. I
Huh?
got this letter. I got this. I have this wonderful therapist. She's just a couple years out of college, and I just adore her because like the world hasn't dumped its stink on her yet, and she's really bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and she's learned everything about Scientology from me, and she's very supportive, and we have a great time. So I'm very like everything they talked about therapy and Scientology is a complete lie. In the letter that they sent me, they said that I'm now controlled by psychiatrists because that's what they do. It's really funny, but it takes a while to find a good therapist, but you can
It
do it.
does, but it's
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, it can be. We've had a great yeah, she's been very helpful. I mean, just having somebody supportive who knows what the fuck is happening is just like it's great, I didn't have a lot of friends. Okay, good. So I guess we're done, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Cricket, it's been great being on your channel, and I love your audience. They're great. Couple of bad eggs, so what?
You know what? We had one person who decided to be a jerk, and
Yeah, but even that person you watch, I'll win them over. You watch. So
well, they won't be coming back in here anymore because I
yeah,
blocked.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank you guys. You guys have just been amazing. I thought we would do maybe an hour and a half tops. Believe me, if I wasn't having a great time, I would have bailed. Thank you guys for bringing out some stories that I really never intended to tell, and it was a lot of fun telling them. So I appreciate that. Just having an opportunity to do it. So thanks.
It was good. It was a lot of fun, and I mean, two
Yeah,
and a half hours, man, it flew by like nothing.
oof, I know. What are we doing, Cricket? 2.5 hours. Jesus. I could have
We're
watched like another episode of True Detective. By the way, this no, this season is very good. I mean, I would watch Jodie Foster paint a wall, literally. I mean, she's like so amazing.
yeah, no,
Um,
uh,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
astonishing, and she has
yeah,
been for a very long time.
yeah. She's a national treasure. Did you see Naiad before we get off? Did anybody see Naiad on Netflix with her and Annette Bening? One of them is going to get nominated. About
I
the swim, about it's about the swimmer Diane Naiad, who
okay.
who at 60 some years of age swam achieved her 25-year goal of swimming from Florida to the Keys, from Cuba to Florida.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'd seen her TED talk. It's amazing. She's a gay woman, and her coach, who's played by Jodie Foster, is a gay woman. So it's a great kind of LGBTQ cinema, but it's beyond that because Diana Nyad is like, and Annette Bening. Oh my God, you have to watch this thing. This 62-year-old woman or something go through this ordeal that literally took her 25 years before she achieved this goal. And if anybody gets the right to say, "Hey," at any age, I mean, that was her whole point. She's like, "Look, don't give up your goals." I mean, she like got out of the water and on the Keys in Florida, and she swam way off course because of the winds and currents. So she took a long route getting there. And seeing her get out of the water the way they duplicated it, and seeing her walk up to all those people and just saying, "Hey, just don't ever give up." You're just like, wow, nobody earned more of a right to say that than her, because this was incredible. Like, anyway, I suggest everybody watch it. It's on Netflix. I'm sure it's going to be nominated for Oscars. But we could do another show if you want on what the best films were this year, if you want to do that, because there was a lot of. This was a year of attacking the patriarchal. There's two major films that were aimed at destroying the patriarchal society we live in. One was Barbie, and the other is Poor Things. And if you haven't seen Poor Things, you have to rush out and see it because it's spectacular.
I've
And
seen two movies in the theater this year. One of them
yeah,
was
see, I know this.
Exorcist Believer, and the other one was Saw 10.
Yeah, I saw one movie in the theater this year, Oppenheimer. I mean, I get screeners, so I could like binge screen all the movies. I know that sounds really elitist and blah blah blah, but I had to
No, I
work.
used to know people when I lived in LA who got screeners. I don't get screeners.
Yeah, well, they do them digitally now. I mean, they still send out DVDs, but they do them digitally. Like you get an app and you get a code and you watch them in HD on your Apple TV, and
Nice.
it's really nice. Yeah, so I got to see a lot of films, and some of them are on Netflix anyway. But I'd rather go to the theater, but I really couldn't do it. I was just like, oh, just having like whatever issues with fatigue and different kinds of things. But the other film that people have to see is a film called Zone of Interest, which is a British film in German. It's a German-British, I think, uh, I can't think of the other country, production. It was done by a British director who did my favorite British crime film, which is Layer Cake with Daniel Craig. An amazing film. If you haven't seen Layer Cake, highly recommended. Probably made Daniel Craig into a star. But this film, it's in German, Zone of Interest. It's about the commandant of Auschwitz, who lives very plush, very normal life with his children and his dogs, just on the other side of the wall. Like there's just a wall between his wonderful life and Auschwitz. The film never takes you you never go in there. You hear gunshots, you hear screams, you see smoke coming out of the chimneys, but they do a brilliant thing. They never make you go into
Wow.
you just stay in this guy who's normalizing the brutalization and the murder of people, and who has Jewish servants in his house. And it's the most chilling, beautifully made, brilliant piece of inspecting humanity. And it's important. Like it's a film people need to see. And it's called Zone of Interest. And I'm sure it'll, if not get nominated, it'll win Best Foreign Film.
Is it on
Or
Netflix now?
foreign language film. No, I don't. Zone of Interest is not going to be. It's probably not even going to be broadly distributed. I don't know, unless it wins an Oscar. It's in German. I mean, who the hell wants to go see a German? And it's also the way it's shot. Like I had trouble getting for the first shot of the film. It's a very long shot of this German family stripped down to their underwear, and they're swimming in the river next to their home, and you don't really know what's going on. And it's purposely shot to pull you into this boring, lazy day, hanging with the family, right? And the music is kind of weird. And then after that scene, the film just takes off. And you begin to understand what the filmmaker's doing. He's like, no, you have to see what it is to normalize human horror. You have to
Right.
see, I'm going to pull you into this. I don't need to take you into the Auschwitz. I don't need, you've seen that. You know what that looks like. What you don't know what it looks like is the commandant's household living just next door. That's what you need to see. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. You need to see the salesman coming to see him, pitching the new systems for speeding up the butchering of people and having these normal business meetings about it. Right. It's just amazing film. It's
Well,
kind of like yeah. I mean, Barbie's probably going to win Best Picture. It's going to piss everybody off.
I haven't seen
But
it.
oh no, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Oliver Stone referred to it as the infantilization of Hollywood, but he's an abuser himself, so who gives a shit? But yeah, it's amazing. It's really an amazing film. It's kind of a miracle of a film.
All right.
The real question is Mattel, are they not in on the joke? Like, did they let this film be made and they're not? I think they're in on the joke, and they probably hate what's being done to Barbie, but they know it'll sell Barbie, so they don't care. They just don't
Well,
care
and
because
they just came out with Stevie
yeah,
Nicks has
this
her own Barbie.
yeah, and you know what? Yeah, I was talking to Rachel Hastings, my friend, the cinematographer. She's a lesbian cinematographer. Is a very like my closest friends, like my family, right? I mean, I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with them. I had no place to go. I go hang out with her and her wife and their foster children. And she's a cinematographer I worked with for Scientology. I've known her since she joined the Sea Org in 2004. And she told me the other day, she works all the time. I've had her on a few times, but she's working a lot. And she told me the other day that they had we were talking about the boys club of cinematography and how it's really hard for women to break in and blah, blah, blah. And, but if I was making a film, Rachel's the first person I would call to shoot it. So, but we were talking that they just they did a female cinematographer, like director of photography, and they did a female director, and they did, I don't know, something else, but it's still like, oh, look, they'll let the girl shoot the camera. It's still wrong. It's still the
Yeah,
boys letting the girls do it. So it's like, anyway, whatever. That's
sure.
a whole nother conversation. I think we need to go to bed because I need to get up, but this was fantastic. So I'm going to shut up now and let you end your stream. And thank you, Cricket.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
This was a good time, y'all.
We'll do it again.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I
no, we
hope
will.
you're welcome back here to be a dirty stay up any old
Yeah,
time
no,
you
I
want.
love this little shadowy corner of YouTube. It's really, people don't know what they're missing. They're hanging out in those crowded rooms with 200,000 people. It's like, and they're in the back row or whatever, or they're spending money to get in the front row. This is nice. This is like a little hole in the wall bar that you find off an alley in downtown LA, and it's just the place to be, right?
Yep. I refer to it as the Denny's of YouTube.
No, I think it's better than Denny. I don't.
Okay.
Well, because it's late night where you go, but
Yeah,
y-
we're in the middle of the night, and I get some of the mods for the other channels when they're done modding, they come over and hang out in my chat and know that they don't have to work.
well, I don't
Um,
do Denny's. I don't do Denny's, so we'll have to come up with another thing. That's
okay.
actually not true. There's a Denny's across the street from county jail, and when I was, I
Yeah.
think 20, I got arrested for something drug related, and I spent a night in jail, and it's like you go to the Denny's and somebody picks you up, so it's like
Right,
it's the
right.
saddest place in the world is the Denny's outside of Danny Masterson's former home.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
When I lived in LA, I lived in that just across the river from there in that area of just down the hill from Boyle Heights in the warehouse district.
just down the hill from Boyle Heights. Over the Mission, around Mission Street, and there's a bunch of
Yep,
warehouses down there. Yeah,
yep, and
there's a there's a brewery down there and a bunch of shit. Yeah,
that's where I lived. So,
yeah, that's a
when I
cool
first
place.
moved out there, so I would walk over to the Denny's because I'm a raging night owl and I
That
always
Denny's,
have
you have
been.
to walk all across the 101 freeway. I mean, you walk under it, but that's like a crazy walk.
No, I had to walk
Uh,
over the bridge.
when was that?
Or down the
See,
hill from the 101.
how long ago was that?
That was 2000 winter of 2005,
Oh, okay. Yeah, because the
spring of
place, it's been
2006.
Boyle Heights has been really gentrified since then, but Boyle Heights has always been one of my favorite places to hang out. Like that's where you go get a mariachi band and like you have really good Mexican food on Sunday
Where
afternoon and blah blah
Mariachi
blah.
Square is.
Mariachi Square. We used to shoot there. It's a whole nother story. Say goodnight, Gracie. Okay, and remember the words of to quote George Burns. There's nothing more important than sincerity, and if you can fake that, you got it made.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night.